Okay, we are live. We're testing it. 1, 2, 3. No echo?
I don't hear anything on my end.
Okay, I'm just going to let it run.
Can they hear anything?
If you come in, let me know if you can hear. And I don't need to move anything because the camera's there and it's pretty much right on. Okay. All right, we're just going to see how it goes. That's all I'm going to do.
Okay, that's great.
And yeah, okay, I think it's fine.
All right, let's see. So it looks like a few of you folks have things for me to look at. And if it's all right with everybody, I guess maybe I'll start with you because you've got the big thing that's right here. And then we'll work our way this way. No.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Yours, yes, yours needed to come up first. So, so we're doing appraisal fairs, and what we do with this is it's really an appraisal intake evaluation. It's our first look at something, and we're trying to give an idea of our best educated guesses to items, age, origin, value, and the things that would make it of interest to a collector. And I'll try to give you an idea either of the retail value in this area or the insurance value, depending on what seems appropriate.
Okay, yeah, me too, for sure.
So tell me how you got this.
My grandma's best friend got it a long time ago, I guess, at a yard sale for like $100. When she passed away, she gave it to my grandma, and my grandma gave it to me just to sell. And when I looked it up, it was kind of all over the board. So I do have the set.
You do have the pair. That's great. That helps a lot. And when you looked it up and you said it was all over, I know they've made these for centuries. Tell me a little about the values you were finding.
Well, I used the Google Lens thing, and I saw anywhere from 500, a couple books sold for 6,000 that were identical, and then I saw a crazy one for 26,000. So
right. All over the place.
All over the board.
Okay. Well, let's take a look and see if we can get some clues for age. Now, the first thing that we see under here is we see a painted number with the glaze here.
It's a little dirty, I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry about that. Dirt is expected with old things. But because we see a painted number under here, and it's painted in the same glaze as the foot, that tells us that this is probably a 20th century piece. And so it does not have the age and the really high value of a dynastic era piece. A lot of the 20th century pieces are based on the ones made back in the Ming and Qing dynasty and that era. It is a Fu lion. They would have originally been on either side of the entrance to a temple to guard. And they're very cool. They're very collectible. It's a good motif, and you've got a pair. You said that they paid $100 at a yard sale for the pair a long time ago. That was a pretty good deal. I think so, yes. I think realistically, you said you wanted retail because you're interested in selling the piece. And I think a realistic selling, where would you sell it?
Here in Marietta.
Here in Marietta. And would you sell it online where it reached a bigger audience? Or?
Well, I thought about putting it online. I have a booth in Smith & Company, which is a little vintage store here in town, but maybe online. Haven't really thought about it too much. Right,
the shipping is no fun with something like this, and it may actually do better, especially if you're in a local store, because so many tourists come here that you have a good chance to sell to somebody in a broader area where it would sell for more. You said that you saw prices from 500 to 5,000 on these sets. I think because it's 20th century, the condition seems really good. You know, as decorative objects, I would expect probably a retail value, maybe in the $650 to $850 range would be what I was thinking. I think those really high values you're seeing are for things that they think are dynastic era, which may or may not be. We'd have to look closely. But it's very cool, and what a wonderful story and a great deal.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And I'll tell you what, I can set him over here if you want to keep looking around.
Yeah, that would be great if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, let's do that.
I appreciate that so much.
Okay, now I know we've got several people who have things. I know my friend to the right of me has several pieces. I know some of you folks may have brought stuff as well and have been asking. So do you have any particular order? Do any of you have places you need to be specifically, or are you going to stay and watch a little bit? All of it. Okay, very good. Well, I'll tell you what, if it's all right, let's take you next then.
All right. Let's start with this.
Oh, very nice. Okay, tell me about this pin and how you got it.
I got this at a thrift store about a week or so ago. I'd actually went in on a Monday and left it sit, came back on Friday and it was still there. So I bought it. And my research shows that it could be a Hattie Carnegie piece, maybe Robert or Kenneth J. Lane involved.
I am inclined towards Kenneth J. Lane. I think the way that it's finished is maybe a little too modern for Hattie Carnegie.
He worked for her in the 50s and 60s, I believe.
Yes.
She may have already been, she died in like 52, I think.
Right, exactly, yeah. And then they had other designers working for her. But the way this piece is finished, you can see a little bit, if you look really close, there's some really little striations on the back. And it's also a very bright gold. And between that and these colors, I think this piece is more likely to be a Kenneth J. Lane 1980s era.
Do you think it's gold plated?
Well, it's a gold tone, but it is a plating. It's not actually, it's not a fine jewelry piece. It's not done in 14 karat or anything like that. So I do think that there's gold plating, but that doesn't really make the value so much. It's more about the design. And the reason I think 1980s is because look at the colors in it. The pinks and turquoises are very big in that period of time, and it's right about the time we start to see costume jewelry finished in this manner. And so I think for that reason, there's a really good chance that we've got that correct attribution for era on it. Now, you said you got it at the thrift store. Do you mind me asking how much?
It was either $9.99 or $12.99.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yes.
It's a very attractive little piece. There's a lot of interest in costume in general. You know, when the economy kind of wobbles like it is a little bit now, people start buying costume jewelry because they get more bang for the buck. And so we're seeing interest in costume jewelry, especially larger pieces. Figures are always better than round or square, so that makes it more desirable. The fact that it has the various layering to it, I think it's a really well-made piece. I would think retail on this likely to be in the $65 to $85 range, in my opinion.
It's shown way higher on eBay, of course.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah, this is the
I
thing.
would recommend that you look for completed sales on eBay. Because if you can make the thing that doesn't have that would give me a higher value is if it actually said KJL or had
Right.
initials.
Yeah.
If it had the signature, then I would feel confident in valuing it probably triple that price.
Okay.
But I don't see that. So we would actually need to look at comps, make an exact comparison, and make sure that we're comparing like with like. And if we can attribute it definitely to Kenneth J. Lane, then we're in a position where we could give it a much higher value.
Okay. Can I bring one other piece?
Of course,
Just take a second.
not a problem.
Well, then can we do that one? And then I'm out of the way.
Oh, I'd love to do those. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Yes, I'm excited about that. Both of those, actually. Yes. Isn't this pretty? And how did you get this one?
I got that at an auction on my birthday. I bought
Oh.
about 8 vases, and that was one of them. And when I started to pack it up for the show, I found that there's a little note on the inside of it.
Oh yes, let's see if we can get that out.
I couldn't find anything comparable, and that's why I want you to look at it.
Okay, well the little note says pâté sur pâté Art Nouveau vase, and that is correct, and that's where they're describing the layer of porcelain on the layer of porcelain, so that's got a 3-dimensional effect. And it says Art Nouveau, and that it is Clarus ware from England, which is also, or Clarus ware from England, which is also correct. And we have the, whenever you see wings through a logo like that, that's very popular in the early 1900s because of the invention of flight.
Okay.
And so that gives us an idea that this is right about 1910. It is, I see that they have a tag on here at one point. Somebody had this, okay. So there's a few things going on here. And tags are funny this way because they have, this was a dealer's tag. They've shown us that, yes, it's this piece from England, and they're asking $85 for it. And here's the piece that says that. Then they're telling us that, oh, but I saw it in Cavell's price guide and it was $1,800. Well, this is a Meissen piece.
It's not the same.
It is not the same at all. It's a beautiful piece, but it is not a Meissen piece. Meissen is so finely refined. So they're just trying to tell you that to get you interested. And then they show a mitten piece that's $1,200. Also very, very high and refined. This company was a company that made very nice ware in the style of those more expensive companies that was sold for less money. So I think that a realistic retail value on this, probably in the $125 range would be top end. You know, if you had the right person, because she's a pretty figure, because she's Art Nouveau, all those things are going for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're gonna do Rosie.
Yes.
I gotta go all right.
Rosie's coming up next, folks, and she's got some really cool stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna pull my chair up because I think I can move a little closer. All right, here we go. This one might be a little dirty too. But here you go.
Okay.
It's a working lamp. I don't know if you can. The cord's a little crazy there, but now this was my grandmother's, and my grandmother had a huge house, and it actually was turned into an orphanage after they sold the house. It was so big.
How interesting.
Yes, and when I was 18, I sold her estate. And I sold everything that was in it, and for some reason I decided to keep the Saturn lamp.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. What a great thing to keep. And what a great introduction to, that's how you got into the business, isn't it?
Yes, they're my grandmother's stuff. And of all the stuff she had, this one is something that I thought was unusual. And at 18 years old, I decided to keep this.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad you did. And it is unusual, actually. I'm sure because you've been in the business a while, you probably know the story about this piece.
Not really, a little bit. I think it's a World's Fair piece.
That's correct.
If I know right, I think it came in different colors, maybe on different years of the fair. I don't know.
I don't know whether the colors had to do with the years of the fair, but they are seen in different colors. I've seen a green, I've seen a light blue. There were all these pastel colors, and when the light comes through, you see all these planets and stars and everything. Now, the shade is a little bit wonky here, so I'm going to be very careful how I hold it. It's got minor wear on the inside. This color was flashed on, but it's a wonderful piece. And yes, this was for the 1939, I think it was the New York World's Fair. I don't think they sold these in San Francisco. They had the Pan Pacific Exposition the same year then. But I'm pretty sure these were only available in New York. They're very collectible. They're really desirable. Art Deco fans got really crazy about them when they first started discovering them in the 60s and 70s when people started collecting. And, you know, the prices are good. I see them anywhere from, you know, in terms of eBay completed sales, I see between $1,000 and $1,250 as a general price.
I was guessing $300 or $400.
Well,
that is amazing.
You know, I saw one of these for $300 or $400 last year, and I am still kicking myself that I didn't buy it because at that time I didn't realize they'd gone up so much. But there is a resurgence of interest in Art Deco. So yeah, you have a great piece.
Now, is there a specific color in these Saturn lamps that people look for? Because it seems like there was a green or a blue one. I saw
there's
one.
a very bright green, there's a pastel green, there's a pastel blue. The one that I saw that I passed up was sort of a grayish color, and I think maybe that's why I passed on it. I really shouldn't have. I made a big mistake. So you know, I think they came in a few colors, and it may have had to do with what time during the fair, or it may just have been whatever they were able to order at the time. The fair originally was supposed to be 39 to 40 and then 40 to 41. And by early 1940, the Second World War had started, and a lot of the pavilions were run by countries that had been overrun by Hitler, and the people were stranded in New York who worked for the fair because they couldn't go back to their home countries, and the fair kind of just shut down because of the war. So,
can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
On a lamp like this that you buy that is this old, that has an end on it like this, what do you suggest? Plugging it in?
Let's talk about these cords. Everybody wants to replace these cords because, well, it's an old cord and it's scary. Well, I look at this one, and yes, a little bit of the rubber is shaved off of here, but there's no wires sticking out. There's no reason I can think of that this shouldn't work. And so what I recommend is plug it into a surge protector, then put the surge protector in the wall, then turn it on. If this is going to fry or pop, it'll pop the surge protector and not all your breakers, and it won't cause a fire. and you'll be able to tell.
And you won't get electrocuted.
And
by
you won't
plugging
get
it in there.
electrocuted. If you plug this into the search bar first and don't touch this and then plug the search bar in, you won't get electrocuted because any problems would be where this joins with the surge protector.
All right.
I learned that the hard way because I plugged a piano lamp in for a customer in our antique mall in Oregon once, and boy, did I get shocked from head to toe, and once was enough.
I'm always afraid. My father-in-law has older things, and he always was cheap buying stuff. And so every time I plug something in, I'm like, oh no.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So is that shade okay to move around?
I think the shade's
I
okay to
think
move
it's
around.
just
It's screwed on there. I think it's just not completely there. That's a little better.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, George.
Oh, you're welcome. That is a really neat piece. And I know you've got one more I'd like to
I
take a
don't
look
have it
at.
right here.
Oh, okay. Very good. Well,
We got some over here.
we've got some here and some there. And I'll tell you what, I know that you've got a big piece that you want to bring up, but how about I go ahead and have you do it, and then we're going to help you folks next because you've been very patient.
You're gonna bring the heavy thing.
Okay, that sounds great.
This is one of the reels. I think it's in there.
Okay. All right, so this is an Edison cylinder disc. And this one is a little later in time. This one says it's for, oh, it's a different company. That's why it's not by Edison. So this one says Busy Bee. These are actually a little harder to find. Busy Bee Records were out of Chicago, I believe, and it says it satisfies every taste. So apparently they had every kind of music that was available to them to put on these. And this is what a cylinder disc looked like. This one's pretty dirty, so we won't use it to run, but they always have the name of the song in the end of the disc. Yeah, if you see right there, you'll read around the top.
Okay.
So this song is, let me do this because it's a little dusty. This one is called, oh, this is Yankee Doodle Boy. Well, we've heard that song, so we know how that goes.
Yeah.
And if you cranked this up and put it on here, you would play it on this wonderful device here, which goes this way. Okay. So this, actually, if you don't mind, let me,
I think I can latch it.
usually they latch open.
Yeah. I don't know if it did.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let me turn it this way as well. And I've got my hands on it pretty well. All right, so this is an Edison-made Amberola. And Amberola was one of the first cylinder disc players. This would have come out right about 1900. The cylinder discs were great in a way because you could actually record on cylinder discs as well, which is why as soon as they possibly could, they switched over to vinyl records so that you couldn't record your own voice at home because they realized, oh, we're losing money.
Yes.
So then you had to go to a studio and record a record. And the cylinder would go here. I'm sure it still works. Because this is dirty, I don't want to play it because, you know, needles wear down. But I think this is a really neat piece. How did you get it?
It was my father's, and before that, his father's.
Oh, very nice. So it's been in the family a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
Well, it's in wonderful condition. It looks like everything should work. It looks like it has the original fabric screen,
does.
which is a nice thing to
Yeah,
have.
it does look like that.
And I think that you would probably see, I sold a similar piece at a show a couple of years ago. Mine had a big horn with it, and that does add to the value.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that would be the projection through the house. But not everybody bought those because usually these were just meant to be played in one room and they were loud enough by themselves.
And it comes out here.
And it comes out there, yes. And the funny thing is, if you wanted it to be a little softer, some of these had doors you would shut and that would actually dampen the sound. That was your volume control. So blasting a little less.
Yeah.
It's a nice American oak case. I would say that based on the one that I sold, probably in the $650 range. There's more interest now in these small tabletop models than there is in the floor standing models. And it used to be the opposite. But so many of the collectors already have a house full of the floor standing models. They don't have room for one now, so they end up with this size instead.
I see. Okay.
What a neat piece.
Yeah, the wood is in really nice shape.
Yeah, it's in amazing shape, actually. The condition is you can tell it's been in one family and sat in one in just a few houses because it's just not banged up at all.
Yeah, it hasn't been battered.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
really
it's been
cool.
sitting in my studio.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then
So
these
that box is a
usually,
bunch of those discs.
you've got a bunch of the discs. Okay, now when we look at the discs, there are certain ones that go for more. Typically, these sell for about $5 to $8 a piece. And it's just to the people who want them to play something on the record. Yankee Doodle Boy is a very common song from the time. It's going to be about that price range. Now, you might see occasionally if it's There were a lot, this is Jim Crow days, there were a lot that were Black Americana related, and they had titles that were sometimes we would consider very offensive now. Those tend to be worth more, you know, maybe $12 to $15 each. And then there's going to be a few obscure ones. Also, look for ones that people did record their voice on. Those are pretty valuable because it was something you could just do at home with this machine. And most of those got thrown away or broken years ago. So those can be a premium as well.
Yeah. Do you want me to grab those so you can look at them?
We can look really quickly, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very handsome piece. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, that's fine. We'll just sort of lift. Yeah, here's the Edisons usually look like this. This is more typical of the style. Look at that so that those folks can see. And then here's Edison there.
It's a busy bee.
There's another busy bee. Yeah, that's interesting. Being closer to Chicago, you must have had more of that
Yeah,
here.
these were really dirty.
They are, and a lot of them are pretty hard to read the edges. So we may not be able to tell much. You would really, I think honestly, you'd have to kind of polish the rims off, and then you're going to be able to see. And this, unfortunately, is what happened to a lot of them, just to show you. They're very brittle, an old brittle style of plastic. So a lot of times they break into pieces like this, and then really you just have the sleeve. And the sleeves are collectible too, because some people just need them for loose discs that are laying around. So
Looks like somebody's handwriting.
yeah, that is. Let's see if we can read that by any chance.
It's not my dad's
I
handwriting.
have finally given up, and I am admitting that I have to sometimes use readers now. So let's see. This one says, God be with you until we meet again, WGJ. So somebody gave this to someone as a gift for some reason, and that's just the way that they signed it.
I'm
They
glad you
just
could
gave
read
it to
it.
them in there.
I couldn't read it.
Well, I had to.
Well, I had
these
glasses on
do
too.
it.
It's just, it's too old. It's like blended in. They're all kind of brittle.
They are kind of brittle. They will usually still play just fine, but you know, you don't want to drop them because they will just crack like an egg at this
I
point.
just opened one that was broken.
Yeah, it does happen.
I like the
Well,
label though.
I like the label too, and and this one's actually got Edison's face on the
Yeah.
side there.
Yeah, this one does
So you
too.
can see what that looks like.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, that was a very fun group of things.
Can we know our little gal from the motel?
I was going to say, I promise we're going to do you folks next, but she works here, and we want to make sure that she can get on with the other things she needs to do. So let's have her come on up.
This little gal has been helping us tremendously the whole time we're here.
Yeah, she sure has. Yes, she got us all checked in our rooms right, which was not an easy feat with a whole bunch of us coming at once. So
There's a set, each of these, and then this one has a creamer with it.
oh, very good. Okay, so this one is the set with another piece.
No.
This one is by itself. Okay, yes. And how did you come to get these? This was an auction buy? And did they tell you anything about it when they sold it to you? Well, the nice thing is we're in a room full of glass collectors, so we might have somebody who can do a better idea on it than I can. I'm going to do my best for you. I don't see any sort of signature of any sort, and it's a very well done piece. It's hand blown and it's feather pulled, and it's got the feel of the glass on the inside is a little bit greasy. The way they anneal glass nowadays causes that. So I think this is would you think a studio piece? It's so nice to have other people here who know stuff so that we can do a little sleuthing. Would you say this is a studio piece? It doesn't match a production line that I know of.
Well, a lot of times glasses, some of this glass that's down here being so close to Fenton, you come upon things that maybe weren't marked, that people were just
That
looking
people,
around with.
right, that they made as an end of day or a designer made as a
Yeah.
sample.
It's very good quality and it's not flat all the way down. So it makes me wonder about it. I'm not.
Yeah, it seems well done. It's pretty practiced. It's actually a purple color, even though it shows black on the outside. What she said is probably the best that we're going to be able to do as far as knowing a maker. Our guess is that did it come from an auction in this area? Okay, yeah. there are a lot of glass blowers who used to work for Fenton and some of the other factories around here who do stuff privately as well. In fact, we just saw Dave Fetty, who used to work for them, who now does glass blowing. He was at Henderson Hall today. And this is not one of his pieces, but it definitely looks like somebody very skilled. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you more. I think it was made sometime in the last 30 years because of the style and the feel of the glass. It doesn't have a lot of wear on the bottom. Do you mind me asking what you gave for it? $20. Okay. Well, I think you got a really good deal. If we could attribute this, it could be $100 to $150. Because we can't attribute it right now, we would have to say, you know, maybe half to 2/3 of that would be a current retail price in the right hands. My suggestion for you is, as you look around, you know, give a little thought, maybe put a picture on your phone of the way this handle is crimped and these pulls. And as you're going around shopping for other glass and finding things, look to see if you see something that seems to be finished the same way, because that might have a signature and then you might be able to make an attribution to yours. With a lot of studio glass and things, honestly, and studio pottery made in the last 30 or 40 years, there's wonderful pieces. And unless they sign it, it's just hard to say because so many people are working in a similar style now. Now, these pieces, I think, came from right down the road, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those look, yes, they look super good.
Yeah, yeah. These look like a Fenton pattern. And what? How did you get these?
My mother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law?
Mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law. They came from her house. And so these are a pair together as a set, or are there more pieces?
There's more pieces, says salt and pepper.
There's a creamer, salt and pepper, there's a bunch of
So it's a whole table set. Okay, yeah. Yeah, these appear to be from the Fenton factory. It's really fun having the different colors. These look to be around 1970 approximately, possibly even a little bit earlier. It'd be interesting to see the other pieces. There's no signature, but that's not uncommon for that era. Just the salt and pepper shaker, I would say somewhere in the $35 range. And the other pieces, you said there's cream and sugar. Is there a tray that they all set on? Okay, so I would say probably maybe the whole group together in the $100, $120 range. One thing about appraising glass in this area that's a little bit different is that there are so many serious glass lovers around here. So the prices tend to be higher here than they would be in other places for certain things. So I hope that gives you some information.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I got my folks over here, and we can, is right to left okay? Would you like to come up next? Oh, sure thing. And hi to our folks out there who are watching on Rosie's Live. This is something we haven't done before. I haven't gotten to do one of these where I have a live audience at the same time. So hopefully you'll enjoy seeing what people bring.
Well, something to me.
You know, sentimental value is a real value. It may not be something that has a monetary value, but it's real. And actually, these are cute, and I do see these. Tell me about how you got this.
My father was a sergeant in the Marines and he was stationed in Japan, and he got that in the 50s, probably about in 1957. And he got that and brought it home to his mother, my grandmother.
Ah.
And when she passed away, my aunt took it out of the china cabinet and gave it to me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes. So I've had it ever since, and that's all I know about it. So I
Oh, well, that's great. Well, that is exactly correct. These are Japanese. They were done as tourist items, and most of them ended up in the United States. And they generally came over with GIs. I've seen a lot of these because I'm originally from Seattle, and a lot of people there were stationed in the Pacific, and they were very popular at the time. They showed the various, I believe it's the Immortals, they've got the dragon. So it's really, they're putting a lot of different Asian imagery. You've got a rickshaw. And so because there's all these different motifs in one thing, and the clamshell's really fun too, but that definitely, you know, it was made for tourists because they're throwing a whole lot of designs that like, okay, here's the most Asian thing we can think of that Americans will recognize because they knew we were the market at that point. It's great to know that this is 1957. I've always assumed these were 50s and 60s, but now we have a date because you know exactly when it came. And, you know, they're not of tremendous high value. There's some sort of a hard plastic, like a celluloid that was used to do them to look like shells. But I still, when I see these sell, I usually see them around $30 in stores.
Okay.
So it has a little bit of value, but it's mainly sentimental value, and that's the, you know, that's what gets us collecting. Ah, interesting.
I have seen that online for all different prices.
Yes, and tell me when you saw it online what they told you about it or what it appeared to be to them.
Well, like a martini.
It's a martini snifter, yes, with the edge. And it looks to me like it's Italian made. Was that the opinion of the other sources you saw?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely appears to be Italian because of this clam broth base. And let's see if we take a flashlight to it. If we get, okay, we don't really get a lot of fluorescence and there's not a lot of opal fire, but that is typical of 1960s or circa 1960 glass. Because they take a lot of the opal out of the opalescence, a lot of the opal fire. They change the chemicals to make it a little safer for the employees working around the stuff, but it means it doesn't fire opal like they used to. I think it's a very pretty piece. I cannot tell you exactly whether it's a Fratelli Toso or one of the other companies because I haven't seen this piece with this edge. So I'm afraid on that, I cannot absolutely tell you who a maker is. Value to me, Italian cocktail ware is especially popular right now. And I mean, this is a creamer, but it kind of goes on the table with that. If I saw this in the antique store in Seattle that specializes in a lot of this, I would expect that they would probably price it $75 to $95. Did you find any specific sold comps when you were looking? And did they say anything about makers? Because that could make a big difference.
There was everywhere on it, from $350 to like $100.
Right, and that really is because, again, if we could make an actual designer attribution, then the 350 range and those higher ranges might be possible. I'm basing it on the fact that we don't, you know, it's funny, I mentioned Fratelli Toso, but actually the base in a way reminds me of Barovier.
That was it.
Yes, okay.
That was it.
It looks more like Barovier. Well, just for fun, because we've got a computer right here, let's see if we might be able to find a Barovier Toso. Let's see. I'm going to look and see if we can find anything that has the exact same base. The thing with Barovier is that I bought a Barovier piece years ago, didn't know what it was, and someone bought it for me and was thrilled because they said, well, you underpriced it. They spent 2.5 hours with the magnifying glass until they were able to find the tiny, tiny etched signature that said Barovier. Really? And I said, you know what, you earned that for that amount of work. You know, it doesn't match anything specifically. And I have to say the style of the base is a little different, but it does have the shape and quality. So I'm not sure I would be willing to absolutely guarantee it to be Barovier. I think it would take some more research, but it would be worth researching because those higher values are possible if you can find evidence.
Okay. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, and our next gentleman I know has a few pieces to show, so come on up and let's look.
I have my necklace too. And that little thing's Jill's, and I have my necklace. But whenever it slows down.
Great.
No.
Wow, that's a beauty.
Thank you.
Well, the great thing is that we have somebody who knows more than I know about Fenton sitting right next to me. It's a beautiful Fenton set. And how did you get it?
Flea market. But so it came with 3 more of these that were shorter, and they told me that, but they didn't match exactly. So then they told me that, well, you can switch them out if you want shorter ones or tall ones. And I don't think it came.
But
like
they
that.
didn't match this pattern?
Not exactly.
Yeah, then it was something from another one, and they probably broke one and said,
So
well,
they gave
we
me
have
7
it as the other one.
pieces.
Well, that's actually wonderful because we do sometimes find the bowls without,
Yes.
and so be on the lookout if you can find a pattern. Just because you're going to know without having to look, and I would have to ask, what is this pattern?
I think it's called diamond lace.
Diamond
and
lace.
It's beautiful in the blue opal color.
Yes,
And this is a full-size Epern.
yes.
And it's kind of rare to see all the horns in good shape. And you said they're all in good
There's
shape?
a little flea bite out of one in the on the stopper. So,
Okay.
you know, in the,
Down in the base,
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of times that is just minimal. It can't be seen if it goes down in there and it fits good. People aren't concerned with that. I'm not going to appraise it. I'm no appraiser, but I do sell a lot of Fenton. And I would say a full-size Epern like this, because Fenton is becoming really popular, that on a good day, you might get $450. On an average day, you should be able to get somewhere between $300 and $350.
And I absolutely concur with what she just said as far as the price range. All of that is exactly right. And yes, Fenton is
people are
definitely
happy to get
popular
the
again.
$40 for it.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
gosh.
$40.
Wow.
This comes in several colors too, so if you want to start a collection, be on the lookout.
I do now.
Okay.
Oh, he's a collector, all right. Yeah, Randy and I have known each other a little while, and he is absolutely a glass aficionado. Like, gosh, that's the rest of us. That's so
You call it blue lace?
I think it's called Spanish lace. I'm not really
diamond lace.
diamond lace.
Diamond lace.
Diamond
See,
lace.
I always call it Spanish lace, and I think the
Yes.
Spanish lace, somebody told me yesterday, is a different.
It is, and
Yeah.
I know what they sell for because they sell them so much. I'm not really on the patterns, but I know this is blue opal, and I know that this size, the large Epern, is real sought after. It also comes in an apartment size Epern that would be about that tall from the base.
Yes. Yes.
So
I like the little apartment sizes, but these are just so grand when they're put together. So, oh, how fun.
Thank you guys. Wow.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I know you have a few more pieces. Let's do a few more of yours if you could. And then if you would like to stay, we can get a few people and then get some more of yours if you aren't in a hurry to go elsewhere. Ah, yes. Here's the story of a couple of different eras. So the trunk base here, how did you get this one?
I bought 3 at an auction lot. Oh, 3 of these spaces at an auction lot.
I see, interesting. And they sold them as a lot together, these 2 and a third one?
Yeah, so there's 4, and I won the bid, and I took 3 of them.
Oh, you took 3 of the 4, I see. Okay, and what was your bid?
$47.
Okay, very good. Well, there is definitely, I see price escalation on these. These are from about 1910. I've always referred to them as trunk bases. This elongated opals, I believe, is a Fenton pattern.
Okay.
There were a lot of different companies that made different patterns of these at the time, but I'm pretty sure the elongated opal belonged to Fenton. And if I'm wrong about that, somebody correct me, because we've got a bunch of Fenton aficionados, right?
The other one has an M in the bottom, so I know it's North.
That one's Northwood, right? Exactly.
This one, I'm not sure.
This one's interesting because it puts me in mind of the old Virginia that Fenton did about 1970, but I actually don't think this is a Fenton piece. It feels, the proportions seem heavy. I'm thinking it might actually be, it's not marked Imperial,
it's not logoed.
which was my original, and I don't see a logo on it.
I don't see a logo either on it, but I can tell you, I think it's a more contemporary piece. This is just what I'm.
Yeah,
know
I thought
I've-
it was 80s.
The age on this does not make as big a difference as the color. The color is amazing, and people are into
That's
this
what drew
right
me
now.
to the color.
Yes.
And they're into it, and they're interested in the style and the way the top of his vase is right now. And the younger people are interested in the style. And I don't know the age. I'm saying is I couldn't even guess. I think it's a more contemporary piece.
I myself felt
Yep.
it was more contemporary than old.
But if I were to sell that at an auction, because I am an auctioneer, if I were to sell that, I would expect that you would get anywhere from 75 tops, maybe a little more on a good day. 60 would be the bottom.
Good.
I agree with all of that, and I do agree also that it's a more contemporary piece, but it still could be made. It could be 1970s, it could be 1990s. It's hard to tell when you get into this era, and especially because it doesn't have a mark. And the pattern sure reminds me of an old imperial pattern, but it doesn't have the IP mark, and the molds were swished around between so many companies. You know, it could even be I'm just surprised it has no mark at all.
I'm surprised too.
That's why I wasn't sure if it was a Fuller or, you know.
No, I don't think it's brand new by
No,
any means. I mean, I think it's vintage. It's just not 100 years old like this one is.
And what was
Value-wise, I think about the same, honestly. These were selling for about the price you paid until recently, and what's happened is because, like she said, younger people are getting interested in this, they are looking at this and saying, oh, that's kind of along that line too. Oh, those are interesting, and we can find those. There's some really big, huge marigold ones in the corner space over there that I noticed, like this tall, and I thought their prices were really good on them. And so I definitely am noticing these things, but it does seem like a new generation is picking up on this because of the interest in the swung bases.
Yeah. Great.
So very cool. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
bring up another. Okay, well, here's something that's very popular right now, and there are two different ones, so I'll let him bring both up and we'll talk about both. So we have fairy lamps, and boy, people are really into the fairy lamps now, especially the YouTube audience, but we're seeing that actually carry over into eBay pricing as well. We're definitely seeing that fairy lamps are a big deal with collectors right now, and you have two different ones by Fenton. I like the red, white, and blue. I just sold the paperweight here last night. That was a match to this. And then this one with the painting, I wonder if we have an artist on there.
Yeah, I
Yes, they're
see.
both signed.
Oh, they are.
Maybe. Not this one.
Your eyes might be better than mine. It's in white on green.
I can't pronounce it. Linda might be able to pronounce it. Linda's a Fenton artist. You might want
Yes,
to
I
check with
watched
her.
her last night.
Let's see here. Hand painted by.
Been trying to find something by you.
Yeah, see if you recognize that name. We have Linda Fleming with us, and so she worked at Fenton. She may be able to help us.
Yes, it's right there. I just can't quite make out the last name. It starts with a B. It almost looks like Burnside, but
It's because of that.
right. Yeah, the opalescence falls right in the middle of the white paint. Bud Kirk. Okay, very good. Thank you. That's helpful, and you know, more people are starting to collect by the designer with that too. So that is making a difference in value. How did you get these, and what did you give for them?
A lot of 4 of them at an auction, and they came out to 75 apiece.
75 apiece. Well, in this market, that is actually not a bad price. My feeling is that you could double your money on
That's what I was hoping.
them
Yes.
in the right hands right now.
Yes. Can I add something?
Yes, please.
This is actually, and this works perfectly fine for this. This is actually a 3-piece fairy lamp. There is a bottom to this piece. But in today's market, it's not going to make that much difference. So if you had the bottom piece to this, which if you look around, I think there's several 3-piece fairy
Go
lamps.
get one to
Yeah.
show you what you're looking for.
If somebody found this like this in the wild, you would get 75, 80 bucks, maybe 125. I've never seen the market go up so fast on fairy lamps right now. If you found the bottom, and look for this stripe in this beautiful green opaline color, if you found the bottom to this, you could get upwards to $250, $300. And being that you live down here, you do live down here?
In Florida.
You live in Florida? Well, Florida, there's a lot of fentanyl down there too. A lot of times, see the bottoms? This is the bottom.
Yeah, that's your third piece right there.
So a lot of times you will, these get separated in estate sales and all kinds of stuff.
And people don't recognize that
Yep.
this goes with this. Yeah.
So a lot of times you will run across these pieces. You might even be able to find a spare on eBay. Well worth picking it up because you're going to have a fairy lamp
Do
that
you
is,
think it would be like green opalescent?
it's going to be exactly the stripe.
Yep.
And if you could find one on eBay for less than $100, I think you could find a bottom for less than $100. You're going to have a fairy lamp that could bring $300.
Because of that extra piece. They do seem to like those. And
Yeah.
thank you for jumping in on that because I saw that and I thought that does seem like the centerpiece, but I wasn't sure because I haven't seen the three pieces together on this pattern.
And just an added note, and I don't mean to say this,
No,
but
please.
if you ever see these bottoms, these bottoms are so sought after.
I bought a blue owl bottom. But,
Yes.
But,
But
didn't
this-
have the top. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to find the top someday. But
Yes.
But
it
this,
was,
it's,
$1.
yeah,
Flea market.
down here you
Right.
can find these. And if you find these, they're an instant $30, $40 because everybody is looking for them because
To
these get
make it
separated.
the one that they lost along the way, yes. No, thank you. That's great. Very timely.
Yeah.
And if you folks would like to be closer where you can see, you're welcome to kind of pull up to the side here.
I have a necklace. Jill's got something on the end. Or
Okay.
anybody else?
Great. I'll
Oh.
tell you what, Jill, let's take a look at yours next. And we're going to come back
Okay.
to my friend because he's got some more neat glass pieces, but let's take a look at what you
Hey,
got
can you sit
first.
right behind and we'll get Jill and then we'll have you.
Yes. Okay, so tell me about her.
Well, all I know is she's Art Deco. I bought it off Heidi months ago, and it's a perfume bottle on the top. And my question was, if it was original, because I belong to a miniature and regular size perfume bottle collector group, because I was at an estate sale and bought hundreds and hundreds of perfume bottles.
Oh,
Never
no,
will I
neat.
do that again.
Oh,
My
that's
car
fine.
smelled horrible for a month. So anyway, I was wondering if it was original.
Well, we had an estate sale that was full of perfume, and we had to put signs up everywhere saying, please take it outside to test because it would have killed us.
Yes.
It's wonderful stuff, but to have a whole lot of it in one place, yeah, you got to have a strong nose. I do not think this piece is original to this base, to be honest with you. And the reason is that, first of all, when I look at the base, even though it sat in that bale, it doesn't really have any noticeable wear on it at all.
Okay.
And somebody who would have picked this up and put it down using it to empty it over the course of time, you'd see a little bit of normal wear you would expect. So I think what they did is they found something that was a very good match and fits it well, but not exactly. And the fact that there's an indentation on the bottom, I think this probably had a different top. I'm not sure what that top would have looked like. I'm not sure exactly what the original, it's like she's having a bath in champagne or something.
Right.
I am
Right.
not sure exactly what that top would have been or what the purpose was. I think it would have been something that would have been fitted to this insert though,
Okay.
because this is a flat bottom and it just seems like this is shaped very deliberately for another purpose. I wish I could tell you more about what that purpose is. However, it does have information on the bottom, and it says that it is copyright Sculpturette Products Company. So I'm going to take that information and see if we might be able to pull up what it is.
I think I found one that maybe it was an ashtray.
That's what I'm leaning towards too. And it's definitely late 20s, early 30s. Yes, here we go. Art Deco lady figure in glass. Okay. And of course, that was something someone was selling, and they don't have the picture of it. Because what they were describing is that this would have actually had a, well, they're not actually describing what the top is. Is there anybody else who has one of these? Red. We're going to try one other research here.
And it kind of reminded me, the reason I bought it is I had a postcard that was actual photograph taken outside a fraternity house in the 30s maybe, and they made a snow sculpture or an ice sculpture of a lady in a champagne bottle.
Oh, how fun.
Yes, and it was like 20 feet high, and I just thought it was great.
This is a very, very popular 1920s style too. I'm thinking the only other things I can see by this company, I'm not finding this exact one, but they do indeed have ashtrays.
Okay.
And it seems like one of them is holding up a tray and the other one has something resting on a piece like this. So that's going to be my guess. I think using it as a little scent bottle holder is great, and it looks absolutely perfect with it. So until, but this company was not in business very long at all, and so it's really hard. There's not like, you know, New Art and Frank Art. There's good information and lots of catalogs. This company came and went really quickly. They probably opened, a lot of these kinds of things would have been started to be made about 1928, 29, and right in time for the Depression, and then bam, they're right out of business. So a lot of this stuff's really scarce. If you had the complete thing, the value I saw on the one that sold, which I sure wish they'd show us a picture so you could find the piece you're looking for, but they didn't. But they sold it for $375 with the original tray in it.
Oh,
so
okay.
now it had all its perfect paint, and it had the whole thing. So, you know, yours maybe we're looking at half of that because it's presented the way it is, but I like the way it looks.
Yes, it's a fun piece.
It really is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hello. Okay. Oh, isn't this neat? It's a charm bracelet. It has a whole lot of charms.
It's 32 charms.
32 different ones, and I'm guessing it's a combination of sterling and non-sterling. Okay, I'll take a look and we'll tell you. We'll hold it up so the folks at home can see. And yeah, this is neat. Is this something, did you collect this, or is this something you found?
Charm bracelets. And I got this at a estate sale.
Very good. And do you mind me asking what you gave for it?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
It's been a few years ago.
Okay, good. Well, then it couldn't have been a whole lot if you don't remember, so that's good news too. It is a combination. I see. Let me get here with the loop. It looks to me, and you have this one, which is a cowbell. Anything that's mechanical is a little bit more. With charm bracelets, there's really two values. Well, there's three depending. If it turned out to be, you know, gold, then there's metal value, and then beyond that, you have the bracelet with the charms, and then what if we sold the charms individually? It's worth more if you break it up and sell them individually, but it just takes a whole long time to sell all of them. Yeah, because individually these might sell for, you know, $10 or $12 a piece, and if you have 32 of them, well, you're looking at $450 or $500. If you were willing to part them out over a very long period of time. Now, a lot of these are not sterling, so they might only be $5 or $6. So then your value is more like $250, $300. As a piece of jewelry, I would say it's more likely to price somewhere around $150 to $175 would be as a charm bracelet. And that seems realistic. You have a lot of fun charms. There's not a lot of mechanical ones. There's not a lot that are sterling. But they always, charm bracelets are so great because they tell stories. And you do have a few unusual ones. This little box opens. And you have some other ones that are a little more than just, you know, they're not just a nice, cute piece made into an image. They actually have some other things going for them. So it's a great set. It looks like 1950s to me from the design, or maybe a little earlier.
Thanks, George.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, please do.
You want to do another piece of jewelry?
Yes, let's do another piece of jewelry, and then we'll have you folks come next. And whose piece of jewelry is this? Oh, cool. Oh, these are great.
Here is my beloved.
Okay.
First of all, I don't know if it's gold,
Okay.
and I guess we need to determine that first. And I don't know if it's better to hold on to these pieces, even if it was gold. But let's find out first what it is.
Okay. Well, this one appears to be brass to me, and the way that I look, you know, if you don't have a gold tester, the thing you look for is tarnish, because gold isn't supposed to, because that's part of its quality. And there is tarnish on the back right here.
Okay.
So this appears to be brass, but this is a nice piece. This is a Victorian slide bracelet. And so this actually is going to date. It's got nice little seed pearls. It's got a little carved cameo in the center of it. This is going to date to probably around, oh, I would think 1885 to 1895. It's a nice old piece. Yeah, it's a really beautiful old piece. And it's got the seed pearls. Nothing is missing. Victorian jewelry is actually becoming of a lot more interest. It's become a lot more collectible again the last few years. Now this one, and I do not have a gold tester with me, but I'm going to hold this up so that folks can see, and let me hold it up for the folks at home to see as well.
I think this is the one that is in question that Jill thought might be gold.
No,
I-
they actually tested it. It is gold.
I was going to say it should be tested, and I think it just looks gold to me. Do they know what carat it tested?
It was a high carat. I can't remember.
Probably
what it was.
18. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, in Victorian jewelry, you know, nowadays we basically think of there's 14 karat gold, there's 18 karat gold, there's 10 karat gold. Well, back then they would do any sort of, it could be any number. It could be 12 karat, it could be 8, it could be 17. I mean, it was just whatever purity they had.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What is, and this is like jewelry for dummies.
That's
10
okay.
10 karat gold is the least. It goes.
Yeah, it goes up in numbers. So 10 karat is 10 karat means it is 37.5% pure.
Oh, okay.
14 karat means that it is 58.5% pure, and 18 karat is 75% pure. Because they almost always mix with an alloy, partly because of the expense and partly because gold is hard to fashion if it doesn't have other metal in it. It's a little easier. It's another very, very nice Victorian piece. And now the chain, I'm not sure. The parts that we know are gold are this locket and this part of the slide chain. The chain itself may or may not be. You might actually have to test the pieces individually, but as far as gold value, the chain is the least of it, so
Yep.
it doesn't affect it all that much. But the fact that this is high carat gold, the cameo is well done. It's got a lot of relief. Again, this is going to be sometime around 1890. I would say that, you know, you surely have at least a quarter to a third of an ounce of gold, and then you have the fact that it's got the nice work, and Victorian jewelry is popular again. So I think conservatively we could say 650 to 850 is a possible number on it. Yeah, because if it's 18 karat gold and it's, you know, even though this is hollow, a third of an ounce of 18 karat is still going to be several $100s just by itself, and then you have this lovely piece of jewelry out of it.
So are you talking about keeping the way it is? I mean, some
I
people
would
say
sell
melt
it.
it down.
I would sell it the way it is because Victorian jewelry is popular right now. My attitude about scrapping where gold and silver are concerned is if it's really new, if it's broken, if it's really damaged, go ahead and sell it for scrap metal. But if it's a complete intact piece of jewelry, it's worth more alive than dead.
Okay.
There is a premium for the fact that, you know, they're going to pay the scrap value plus for the fact that it's a neat piece.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Thanks, George.
oh, you're so welcome. Come on up. Hello. This is a really lovely piece of glass. And what can you tell me about it and how you got it?
Friends gave it to me and they said they thought it was Fenton. But I
Okay.
can't find a Fenton mark on it, but of course the old Fenton wasn't.
Right, the old Fenton wasn't marked, and there was a period about the late 60s. They did a line called Old Virginia that was essentially black amethyst as carnival glass, and they did other lines as well. My opinion is that it is Fenton, but we've got a whole bunch of Fenton folks in here. Is there anybody who has reason to disagree with that attribution?
I believe it's funny.
I believe it's a Fenton piece too, because of the way the iridescence is done and because of the shape. I just haven't seen this exact pattern with this particular flower on it, which has a name, and I'm sorry, because that would help you with identification if we knew the name. It looks like, well, it's iris. Oh, no, that's easy. It's narcissus. I just realized I'm looking at a piece and a piece, and now that I held it back, it's clearly narcissus. Yeah. Okay, so you've got the narcissus face. Let's see if we can find a recent sale of that, because you don't see a lot of the black carnival. It really doesn't come up a lot. It's just now starting to come out of collections because a lot of this was purchased in the 60s and 70s. So now we're at a point where some of those estates are turning over and some of those collections are coming back on the market. So yeah, I can't find this exact piece currently. I would say that based on what I'm seeing for other black carnival from this line, from this era, I would think you might be in the realm of $200 to $250, and possibly a little bit more, particularly right here. Because of where we are. The only thing that would make it more than that is if we were to find out that it was a very, very limited line, or that it wasn't in the line, that they produced it as a sample and then they didn't end up including it in the line. And that, to be honest with you, I think you probably have to go to the National Museum or the National Fenton Binders, which you're a member of.
And I've looked, and
they don't show it
either
either.
it's so old or it's so current. Of course, the books didn't have everything in it.
No, they don't. I wrote a collector's reference book, and when I said, how many pictures do I get? They said 450, and I took 700 pictures, and they picked 450 of them. So you don't get to put everything in your book, even if you want to.
Because that's a picture of me. Elizabeth Pack.
Oh,
they
that's
made that,
wonderful.
I think, for 3 years back in the 30s.
Back in the 30s, yeah. They didn't do the dinnerware sets for very long, and they really
called that a lunch, a brunch, or breakfast.
That is beautiful.
And I bought that off of Richard and Ruby Stats. There are a couple here that helped start Fenton. And her name was Ruby, so when they went across the United States,
they would look for Ruby Glass.
Well, and it's all the Elizabeth pattern.
Oh.
And so they just got that, and I was lucky enough to buy it.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Have you ever had that looked at?
No, not really. I know individually what I paid for each piece because I marked that down. Then he gave me 10% off because it was by involved.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but
do you remember what you paid for it? I'm just curious.
I think the whole set, basically, because there's a lot of plates. I mean, large plates with handles on them.
Yes.
And things. I think about $450.
Oh, I think you got a very good buy. You don't really see Elizabeth very often. The red is popular, and I honestly think that might be. I think for insurance purposes, I would put 3 times that on it, because if you were to try to replace that, the ruby comes up very seldomly.
Very hard.
And it would take you a long time, and you would pay for it.
Especially, it's got the
all those survey places
is sculptured where some of them are.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Those variants
And
definitely
Ruby, they said was really not, usually it was black and then Ruby or another color.
It was usually a cut. Yeah, they like to do color combinations at that time. And they also, Ruby cost more when it was new. And that was an era when people didn't have a lot of money to spend necessarily.
That's true. Yeah.
Even if they had money, they were being a little more conservative with it. So.
But this piece I'd always wondered about. So
Yeah.
I'm not able to find it.
That's my opinion. It's the best educated opinion I can give you. And everyone else here seems to feel the same. So
I have that face.
do you?
Isn't it lovely?
Well, here we go. Tell us a little more since
I do. I have
you
that
have
face.
this exact one. Okay, tell us about it. Tell us a little more.
I don't know.
Because it's not marked. Or I couldn't find it in the decoration either. Sometimes they marked it up.
Yeah, sometimes it's marked on the side of the piece and not where you would expect.
Now it could. What's that?
They kind of hide it.
Sometimes they hide it. Sometimes I do not see any logo on it, and I'm not sure if it, if the mold came, somebody else used it or not. Mine is definitely Fenton, and it's in the window of my shop. It's beautiful like this. I don't know what did you say for a value on it?
Around $275.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was gonna say, mine personally, I would not sell it for less than $300. It is a treasure.
I think it'd make a nice lamp.
Yeah.
But you have to drill. No, if you
I
do
will
the top and then take the electric cord down the outside.
Sometimes you can
Maybe, you know,
put things in it without drilling it to make
Yes.
it. Yeah.
because I will say just from the years of selling things with Fenton and other glass, when you drill things and make them into lamps, it really knocks the value down on the original piece. But look at the Carlton that's so popular right now. People have made it Carlton into lamps back in the day, and they're not nearly as popular as the vase themselves. So this, if you could figure out some way, I know with technology and LED lights and all that kind of stuff, maybe there's some way that you could do a lamp out of this and
Oh, I
not
don't think I
compromise
probably
it.
would, because
Yeah.
it's just-
I
it's a
think you
piece
might be
itself.
able to see through that glass. So you might be able to get an LED light that's
Yeah.
really nice and put it down there, and it would glow wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be nicer on a nice lit base.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that she's got a piece
Yep.
because she
That
is,
makes it.
yes,
Thank you.
that helps verify.
It is exactly.
Hello.
This one's different from that one. Okay.
Oh, I like this though. How did you get this piece?
We bought that in an estate auction. Didn't get very much for $15, $20.
15 or
But it was
20.
just different from the things that we normally buy.
Yes.
It was Italy, the birds and the flowers, so, and the handles were exciting.
So this
Or
is,
unique.
they really are. I like all of the detail. The condition's really good on this too. This is a 20th century piece of, essentially it's Italian, it's faience, the glaze, and the hand painting is really well done. And what's nice is that it's got all this detail and not a bunch of chips. Usually the Italian stuff, as neat as it looked, chipped really easily along the edges. And so the fact that this one is so clean makes it a little more desirable than they would be otherwise. It's all hand painted and the detail is really good. And we got a lot of this where in the 1960s and 70s, Italy was having a lot of trouble then. They had the Red Brigade and the terror, internal terrorism, and the value of the lira plummeted, and all of a sudden they were desperate to sell stuff to the United States. And that's why there's so much great Italian glass and ceramic from the 60s and 70s that ended up here. And so this would have been of that era. I think it's really pretty and well done. I don't see anything that helps us identify a maker that with these pieces, at least at this point, there's not a lot of scholarship on these, and I don't think there's any reason to think that would affect the value now. That may change as people get more interested in this. But because it's a very strong design, the good handles, it's stately enough, it's hand painted well. I'm thinking that you might see, and you said you paid 15 for it?
15
or 20, yeah. I think retail on this probably 75 to 95 these days. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Hi there. Come on up.
Do you know who this is?
I do not.
This is Dave Fetty's gal.
Oh, hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Don't forget.
But her name is Janet Sinclair.
Hi,
Isn't that a
Janet.
beautiful name?
Yes, it is, and
Janet
that's wonderful. We
Sinclair.
just got to watch him blow glass today.
Did you?
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Well, I brought you a piece of that cup that the glasses made.
Oh. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, I would love a piece of the color. That is so neat. Well, tell me how you got this.
I found it in my closet.
Found it in my closet counts. When you've been a collector a while, it's like having things new again, isn't
It
it?
came, I'm sure, back from my father's side. My father was living in the 113. So I,
Wow.
but I know that it's missing one.
It is missing one of the little horns, but this is a trumpet call. This is by Hohner. Hohner was the most famous and most well-known of the various companies that made harmonicas and that type of instrument. And then they're still in business. And if you don't mind, I'll give it, it's a little as is, but I think it'll play a little. It's easy to sound good on the harmonica as long as you just play random notes.
He's a musician too.
Not really, but it's interesting. He's also got his Order of Foresters information in here, so it's just nice. It's got a lot of family memories, and it's got a little receipt in here that says that, oh, this is for something else, 75 cents due for the telephone. So
Lovely charges there, Janet.
January 6th, 1900. So hopefully they got that bill page. So you still have a phone. It's a really neat piece. We don't see a lot of these. Condition does matter on these. But I'm going to take a look. I'd like to. It's nice. In the old days, we had to just tell people, well, we think it's around this area. But now with Wi-Fi, we have information at our fingertips. So let's see if we can see. Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. So a recent one with the box, but in better condition, sold for $200, which is about what I expected. Yours, because it's as is probably more in the $100 to $125 range. I realize the value is mostly sentimental for family anyway. But that is a very fun piece and something we don't see very often.
Oh, my dad used to want me to come on like crazy.
Oh, how fun. Oh, I would. That's great. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, you too. Well, hello. Let's see what you brought. Oh, yes.
I believe it's a 4-piece set. That's what I was told, whether it is or not.
Yes, no, this looks like it all matches and or is similar. They Compare was a really, really good maker of earthenware ceramics, and they're very well known for this yellowware with the brightly painted peasants. And oh, you've got actually quite a few pieces. Looks like
I
you've
actually
got.
have more, but this is what they told me all went together.
All went together, right? And you'll be able to tell basically by your bordering will be how you know which goes together and which doesn't, because they did various borders. You might see this same sort of character in the middle, but then the border may be different depending. Now this sort of ware has been made for really quite a long time. I mean, I think well over a century now. Tell me how you got this set.
So we bought an estate.
And it was in it?
It was. And the folks were English.
Ah, okay.
And she said that it had been handed down for generations. This is the only piece that has a chip in it.
Yes, well, they were prone to chipping because it's it's not a porcelain, so it's an earthenware, and they did tend to chip around the edges some. And you've got a couple of different back stamps. Now, if you notice, the thickness of this one seems to be a little different, and you notice the signatures are different on every time. So they all match, and they were collected and put together as a set. I don't know that they actually came as a set originally. I believe these with the larger, these three with the larger paint, larger signature, I believe are newer, and these two are older. They are all by the same company though, and this is the most, HB is the most famous of the compare companies. Value on this is probably, the values have come down on this some because it's not as understood by newer generations, but it's got such a folk art style to it that I think it's going to catch on again. I would say now you're probably looking at a value around $100 for the set.
All right, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. One thing about doing this is you get around a lot of dust.
Yes, I know. What I was doing earlier was sneezing.
Yes. Okay, if Randy is here, I know we have some more pieces of his to look at, but I didn't want to do it.
We have Diane. She's got a whole
Oh,
thing. Can she
Diane?
bring out a couple?
Yes. Why don't, yep.
We'll do Jamie and then Diane if you want to bring a couple.
Yeah, Diane, we'll have you bring a few, and then we'll have, we'll kind of go between the two of you, because I've got it. Jim's got some too. Okay, that's great. Oh, isn't that beautiful? How did you get it, and what do you know about it?
My mother gave it to me for Christmas. She had it pinned to a blazer that she bought for me. And it was really, I always thought it was pretty.
Oh, that's really neat, and what a nice way to present it. And that actually brings up an interesting thing. If you are going through estate sales, and for all of you folks who might be watching elsewhere, look through the clothes if you like costume jewelry, because a lot of times women would put a pin on and they really liked it with that piece and they would just leave it there. Some of the best costume jewelry I've found came from the closet rather than the jewelry box. This piece has a maker's mark on it. I believe it's Weiss, but I'm going to take a look and make sure. Yes, it is Weiss. Weiss was very big in, well, they were big in the 50s and 60s particularly, and especially in the 60s, so much so that Diella and Lister, who did Juliana jewelry, made a lot of stuff for them because they couldn't keep up with their orders. That was actually pretty common with costume jewelry, is that companies would make for each other. If they didn't have a lot of orders, then someone else would send them some, and they all kind of kept each other going. Very nice crystals, Austrian crystal in this. What it has going for it is the way it's set, and it's got so much color to it, to the crystal, which helps because you know, it's round, which is not as sought after as shapes, and it's clear, which is not as sought after as color, other things being equal. But this one, this would be something where we would sell this, honestly, is usually in the fourth quarter. We sell these types of pins right before formal wear.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's actually when they were often done. This would usually be part of a holiday line for that reason. So 1960s, I would say that the value on this piece probably in the $40 to $60 range.
More than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this, I have no idea what this is. Oops, I didn't realize it. Got it tuned somehow. Oh my gosh, I put a lot of bubble wrap on this.
Oh, that's fine. It'll come out eventually. Oh, isn't that nice? Tell me a little about this piece and what you know about it.
Actually, I know nothing about it. It came from Heidi's auction.
Really?
Yes. And I don't normally do that. I mean, I'm a Fenton collector, but
Right.
it was pretty. I like the color and.
Oh, it's beautiful. And it's Victorian.
Mhm.
And it's a very nice peach blow. And it's a very deep peach blow. So I'm actually not thinking, I mean, it's actually almost more of a Rubina, really, I would say, than peach blow. It could be Mount Washington.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm leaning towards Mount Washington as the
Okay.
maker of this. Now, there were lots of glass companies, and a lot of them did this sort of thing, but they really did a lot of peach blow and a fair amount of Rubina, and the finish on the bottom seems right. So that would be my best educated guess without doing more research. The enamel in the decoration is really, really nice on this. And of course, originally it would have been part of a bigger set.
Right.
May I ask how much you paid for this?
Actually, it was a gift.
Oh.
I don't know how much.
Oh, how nice. Okay, well then that's a wonderful place. It's a nice silver plated mount here.
Now, is it better to leave it alone and finish it there, or should it be clean?
I think it really depends on your taste, to be honest.
Okay.
Some people like the
I sorta
dark
like it.
patina, and I do too, especially with this piece of glass. If it were me, I would leave it alone.
Okay.
I also hate to polish, so I'm biased. On the other hand, if you wanted it to be shiny bright, that's how it was originally, you wouldn't be hurting anything to polish it. You wouldn't be doing anything wrong. So it's just up to you. But if it were me, I'd leave it because I like it and I like the way it looks. It's a very pretty piece. You know, conservatively $75 to $95.
Very
I
good.
think. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Now you have to find the person who really understands and collects Victorian glass, and there
Right.
aren't as many these days. But I do see that we're starting to see a younger generation get interested in Victorian because, like my 32-year-old niece told me when she bought a balloon back chair a few months ago, and I said, "Your house is full of IKEA," and she said, "Yes, I'm sick of it. Everything is so plain. I've grown up with nothing but modernism. I want something fancy." And I said, "Send me pictures of what you like." And everything she sent was Victorian.
Well, that's funny.
And I thought, I think
Very
I have a new
interesting.
generation.
Yes. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes, hi, come on up.
This is neat stuff. Oh, I love this. This is so fun, George.
It's fun for me
Thank
too.
you for doing it.
I'm so glad to be here doing this. This is great.
This is
Hello. Oh, thank you so much. Should I open it or let it be a surprise for later?
Christmas. Let's let this be a surprise for later.
Okay,
Whenever you're ready.
thank you.
It's kind of.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh my gosh. Now I'm all excited. Oh, that is so sweet of you. Well, thank you. Everyone has just been so wonderful here and so gracious, and it's nice to see a bunch of people out for this.
Yes.
Everybody can't wait to see the next item.
Yeah,
I got
that's
a
the
mixed
thing that's
bag.
so fun.
So I guess I'm going to take a look. Well, let's go. Well, that was the big. Yeah. Let's just go ahead with the big boy.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I like your bracelet too. That's a Sarah Coventry, isn't it?
No, it's a coral.
The Coro, yes, yes. Wow.
There you go. Have at it.
How did you get this and what do you know about it?
Actually, I bought that off of eBay.
Mm-hmm.
Very late at night when I have insomnia is actually when I do shop.
Yes.
And I find lots of deals.
Oh, I bet because late at night, nobody in the U.S. is on usually.
And it was like a buy it now. I buy it, then I prayed I was going to get it in one piece.
Yeah.
But I have been looking for one. I guess I've done that for about 13 years.
Wow.
I believe it's overshot, and I
Yes.
recall it, and I have some overshot, and I purchased a piece of cranberry overshot at the antique store across the street. First day here. I know it's fairly low, and I believe it might be crackle too.
Yes, it's definitely overshot and it gives it the crackle effect. It does seem like there's some either striation or bubbling in the glass as well. So it looks like crackle on both sides, but I think it's just because of the way that the composition of the glass itself. Did they tell you anything about country of origin on this particular piece?
No, it's in this, you can find it in this stand, the late stand Whiten, Crackle Glass Around the World. He has several, and he has a picture of that, and it's in a museum.
Interesting.
And I think it's kind of Victorian, really.
It looks to me to be most of this is late Victorian. This piece does seem to be European to me, the way that it's made, the way the rondelles are applied, but also the polish on the bottom, the way that that's done. I'm of the. Do you mind me asking what you gave for it late night on eBay?
$80.
$80.
Because I've been seeing other pieces. Around 2, maybe 3.
Yes, I was going to say, I would think for
more.
sometimes more, exactly, yeah. Overshot is something we just don't see a whole lot anymore. It seems like most of it went in collections years ago. This braided rope, this interlaced handle here is really quite a lot of work to make. I'm of the opinion that this might be closer to the 200, 225 value that you thought it was when you bought it. So there's a tip for everyone. Stay up late and shop them.
Well, about everything you're getting ready to see, except for this baseball. That's how I acquired it.
Oh, very good.
This is a baseball, so I wanted to kind of bring something that I think is interesting.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, let's take a look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have fun, George.
Oh, this is great. Okay, so this is a signed baseball, but read what it says. It actually is signed by a professional baseball player, but this is a little different than the usual professional baseball player because this one is Pickles, who was Dolores Lee Dries. She played for the Rockford Peaches. It was part of the women's league that existed in the Second World War and up until the early 1950s. And of course, a league of their own was about this phenomenon. Some of the women's teams were drawing almost as well as the professional teams, and a lot of the black baseball teams started to draw really well because the regular teams were gone. And so all of a sudden people were looking for this sort of entertainment. And so they started giving people who hadn't been part of baseball before started to have a chance to make a name for themselves. And she was fairly famous amongst the group.
Her name is Dolores Lee, and her married name is Dries.
Dries is her married name, yes. Dolores Lee is her name as a player.
She's from Jersey. And one important fact to know, they would often do exhibition games. They would play before the men. and they would have the women come out and do different things. And her big thing is she could throw that two baseballs simultaneously to 2 batters, and the men and that was her thing.
That's pretty
She's
cool.
still alive. She's in Arizona, and also she was the first female policewoman in New Jersey. So
That's fantastic for so many different reasons.
yeah,
And what a great story. Yeah, these women were really intrepid, and they there is definitely a market. Now, most of these were signed in the 1990s, like this one was about the
86.
Yep, exactly. And because the movie came out and
Right.
suddenly they were all famous and they
Right.
finally got their due.
Right.
I recently sold a poster signed by various of the Women League players, and it went for $300. And I would think that that would be conservatively a starting price for this. It could certainly go for more, and I think in the future they will, because as more women are involved in sports and more women are becoming sports fans because of it, they're going to look back to this as being a really seminal moment in terms of women's sports
Well, I
history.
got it on Sunday morning. I'm not into sports. Someone else is. And I walked up to look in the glass case because I usually look for jewelry and different things. And there it was, and I'm looking at it, and I thought it was neat. And we like a League of Their Own.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy it. And back in those days, and this has been a long time ago, it was 50% off.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
I paid like $11.
$11, wow.
What do you think she'd go for?
I seriously think
Yeah,
about
it's a niche.
$250 to $300 now.
Really?
Yeah,
That's good.
and maybe more later. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I love her. She is for sale though.
that's cool.
I do love her. I've had her for a while, and I keep her. I don't know how to even store things like that, but I keep her hidden in the dark.
That's probably wise
In a-
because ink does fade.
In the dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ink does fade, and as long as it's not too hot and stuffy in there that there could be some other thing to happen to it, I would say
Right.
that's the place to put it.
Okay, that's good. Well, here's something you say you don't see. We talked about this.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And since we're in Ohio,
Because of who made this,
Yeah.
this is what's interesting about this piece. You had told me this
and
was
this is a
coming.
late night eBay, and I don't think they knew what it was.
Yeah.
I kind of knew what it was.
Uh-huh.
And it was when I kind of was collecting Hull, and I recognized it from my book. I kept looking at it, and I'm like, that's all. I like it.
A lot of people would not recognize this as Hull pottery, but Hull pottery in the very early days, first of all, they did more utility wear just like everybody did. And secondly, this one has the H in the circle on the bottom. And so that gives us our clue right away that this is a Hull piece and probably from the 1920s. It's a salt box because they did do a lot of utility wear and stuff for kitchens at that time. It wasn't all just pots for, pottery's sake. They got more into the artware later. And you said this was another late night find, and because they
Yes.
didn't know what it was, may I ask what you got it for?
Oh gosh, I got it for like $10.
$10, wow. Yeah, that's
and I might
fantastic.
even got free shipping.
Oh, wow.
This
That's
I've
great.
had that a long time.
It's a really neat piece, and you just don't see a lot of this sort of thing from them. Salt boxes are collectible in their own right. Hull is not as popular as it was, but I feel like it's going to make a comeback because a lot of it's pink, and we've got a lot of gray interiors, and pink goes with gray, and that's when they got really popular last time, was in the 80s. And once that happens, then people start getting interested in the other things they make.
Right.
So down the road, this will be worth more, but today I'd say probably $50, $60.
That's good. And do you think that's the original?
I actually think it might be the original lid. I mean, it's the reason I think it is original is because it's got this scoring around it to make it a little bit Art Deco. It does have evidence of wear and use on the top. It's lighter on the inside, so oxygen has gotten to the outside but not the inside, which means they didn't just take a piece of wood and make it yesterday. So I do think it's actually original to the piece.
That's nice. This is sleeper.
Oh, isn't that pretty? This is very early Crackle Glass. And what can you tell me about this?
That I liked it, and I bought it late at night. And I normally can't afford anything like that, and I thought it was research.
I'm sorry.
Mercer.
Oh, Mosier? Well, there's something we can look at that will tell us real quickly if it's Mosier or not. Mosier was one of the reasons, because Mosier was good quality glass, one of the things they did to make sure that the edge wouldn't chip, they always beveled it across the top and then up the side and down the side at an angle. So you're going to see 3 bevels on a Mosier piece. So let's see if we see that. Okay, I do see one. Okay, I see the one on the outside, I see the one on the top, I don't see one on the inside. So my guess is probably not Mosier, but definitely Italian and most likely European, probably Bohemian, to tell you the truth. And it's a very pretty piece, and you said you got it in the middle of the night on one of your,
That came off, it was a sleeper.
And how much was this sleeper?
I think only about 20. I didn't spend a whole lot.
That's great. No, you did really
I mean,
well.
I do spend a lot, but sometimes I don't. When I bought that, it was a little different. I think now I can spend more.
Right, exactly.
There's
Well, and
things going
also you're also, you look for, you look for different things at different points in your collecting. I think that, for the 20 you gave for it, I honestly think it's worth about 45 to 50.
That's nice. And I always look and I never see cups. I do have a Crackle Glass pinch vase that's uranium. I think it's actually nice.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's yellowish green, and it has the creams on it, but I didn't bring it from together.
Oh, I understand. That sounds like a great piece, though. This is a neat little overshot piece, this little nut cup here, or salt dish, actually. I just saw it's got the spoon, so it is a salt dish. And isn't that cute? And really delicate. And was this another one of your late night finds?
Yeah.
So I'm imagining you didn't pay a lot.
I can't really remember, but I know I didn't pay. That might have came with a group, and it was a lot.
It's a very neat little piece.
Yeah.
I think you're probably, again, $45 to $50 would be where I would think it would start in the store, and it might be more if you got someone who really understood overshot glass. You're one of the few people I know currently collecting it. A lot of it went into collections back in the 80s, so I think a lot of new collectors aren't aware of it.
Okay, and then this is for fun.
These are for fun. Okay, so we have, so this one's salt, and then what would you put in there? It's an egg toddler, yes. So you have, you do your poached egg, and then you take it out and you lift it up, you put your salt on, and your egg is right there, and you can just take the top off the egg and eat it, or dip your toast in it if you're English. And then these look like Holt Howard.
They are.
And these are really hard to find.
And they don't show the Holt Howard on the bottom, they just have the Japan sticker. And that doesn't, so if you see it, you might pass it by.
You might pass it by and not know. So look at the face. Yeah, look at the face.
One of those things.
Look at the smile on the animal and the way it's painted, and study that, because if you look at Holt Howard pieces like Cozy Kitty, they have that exact same face, and that's how I was able to tell right away that it was Holt Howard, even though I have never actually seen a pair of these in person.
Most people haven't.
No, this is a hard one to find. And was this another late night find?
It wasn't in Holt Howard. It was like anthropomorphic or something.
Anthropomorphic salt and pepper.
And it was in there, and I just kind of went.
The other nice thing is,
because I studied the book, and I knew what.
And you knew what you were looking at.
And
yeah.
A lot of them you'll find they won't have these.
Right, they'll be missing the bottom because they didn't know it went with it, and they separated. And a lot of times they're missing this rubber cork, and these rubber corks are the original.
And some of these were just made or experimental, but the polar bear cubs, they're hard, and those are, and it's like they're on icebergs.
Yes.
It's like they're sitting on ice.
Yes, they're very, very cute. And, even the chicks that we see a lot more often sell for about $60 a piece now.
I know.
I think that you might see, if you got a serious Holt Howard collector who understood these, I'm thinking, yeah, well, yes, exactly. Yeah, my mom collects this stuff. She would love these. But she wouldn't pay what they're worth because they're worth some money. I think you might be looking at 125 to 150 for the pair.
Yeah.
And possibly more in the right hands because they never come up. You just never see that line. And like you said, it may have been in the line for a second or maybe even not at all.
Right.
It could have just been something that they made. You know, they were made in Japan and then sent over. And JCPenney's they were smart. They were one of the first ones that set up a big store display. Everything in it was full powered and you could see it all. And then you could pick and choose the pieces you wanted. And it's a really neat way of, it was very forward thinking of them to do it that way.
Well, these are my favorite hotel pieces. I am a collector, but I look at what pieces are for today, and even late at night, I'm not finding.
Yeah.
You gotta look.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I look in the wild, and it's rare. You know.
Well, it's true. You know, we think that because everything. You know, it's been around and it's just, oh, there's going to be more of those somewhere. But, you know, eBay, when eBay came out and all of a sudden everybody could put everything on it and there was all this access to all this stuff, people were like, oh, great. Oh, well, I can just get one of these anytime. Well, now eBay's been rolling for 25 years. And a whole lot of stuff is in collections now that you don't ever see anymore.
Another thing, people from Japan are buying up jewelry and like costume jewelry.
China,
and stuff.
the Chinese.
So it's hard when you're trying to buy costume jewelry. And that's it. I did have the cranberry overshot that I bought across the street, not expecting to find that. But that's all I got.
Now tell me about this piece and how you got it.
Oh, there we go. That's an eBay late sleeper.
Another one? Wow.
I have insomnia. I get up at night. You know.
Yeah, but you know what? It's
I don't clean
house.
I shop. But I like costume jewelry. I like vintage costume jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to put that whole set together. I've got my eye on a set, several sets.
Yeah, it's a great
and
piece.
You see that a lot in gold. That's rhodium plated.
Yep.
And it was made in the 40s.
You don't see the rhodium as much, and this is an earlier piece. This is Coro, and we see a lot of the Whiting and Davis in the 60s after the movie Cleopatra comes out, but Coro caught on to this design way in advance. Coro, like most of the companies, was done in Rhode Island. Actually, one of my viewers on YouTube, one of my very first people who started following me, her parents worked there. And she said it was really interesting. They would produce for 3 seasons and then they'd have all summer off so they and the kids could go places. This is a really neat piece and a pretty desirable one. And I am going to, just for fun, look and see. They don't come up very often, so we'll see if by any chance the snake bracelet is on here, but I have a feeling,
You'll see them on Etsy.
Yeah.
There's one actually on I've got a picture of it. You got the hard velvet blue box. It has,
neat.
has the earrings, bracelet.
The whole set together, is worth about $650 to $750.
To $750, that's what it is.
Yep, and the bracelet by itself, I would say, probably $150 to $250, depending on where you sold it. Yeah, it's just
or where
fantastic.
I sold it.
If you were to sell it, then you might get into there. Yes.
Well, I just got her. I think she's a her.
Very good.
George, we have a question.
Yes.
Could you explain rhodium?
Rhodium.
Would you explain rhodium?
Okay. Well, rhodium, this piece is rhodium, and rhodium is actually a silver metal. It's something that gives it this nice, shiny, bright, without being chrome. And there were certain trade names, like Trifari called their rhodium pieces Trifarium, just because it made it sound like it was propriety to them. The interesting thing about rhodium, my costume jewelry repairer says rhodium is really difficult to repair, much harder than welding on other jewelry. And so if you buy rhodium jewelry, you probably want to try to find it in perfect shape, because if it's not, it's tough.
This was about as good as she was getting, so I just thought she was awesome. And I was like,
yeah.
And I go through thousands and thousands. That's probably why my site at night.
Yes.
And It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, but when you find that needle, the needles are great, and you've got a bunch of really cool stuff.
All right.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. That was really
Thank
fun.
you.
And I
Thanks.
will. You'll be around a while, and we'll catch up. We'll do that together. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if it's okay, I'd like to have Randy come back up because he had a bunch of pieces too. And I asked him to step aside so we could show some other things, but I want to give him a chance to show us some of what he brought us. He's got some neat stuff. And he has a lot of things that some of you folks will like because a lot of it is Benton, including this very pretty little bird.
I didn't think it was signed until it's on the wing.
It's underneath the wing, yeah. Fenton did some surface signatures that you don't see as often, but I do see the signature of the artist, which is upside down to the rest of the piece. And it is M. Michalik is the signature on this particular piece. And this one has a 0 underneath, so we know it was made. It's got the 95 logo on it for their 100th anniversary in 1995, but they actually have, that doesn't make sense. Maybe that's an 8. No, that's clearly a 0. So this was made, it's funny, it's the 1995 line, but this would have been made around 2000 because it's got the 0 under the oval, so it's a 2000s piece. And it's really nicely painted. And how did you get it?
Oh, flea market.
Flea market. Yeah, you were the best flea market shopper, I'll tell you. Tell me what you got and what you paid for.
$5.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty great. I don't actually see the opalescent like this that often.
Very pretty.
Yeah, I thought it was nice too. I mean, conservatively $35 to $50, I would think,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. I keep looking at Rosie because she knows so much Benton and
Yes.
she deals with it all the time. So I'm like, okay, tell me if there's a thing. Now, this is a neat paperweight and it's very heavy and well made. And it looks a lot like the dome at the 1986 World's Fair in Vancouver, actually.
2000 Millennium Waterford.
It's one of the Waterford lines. Yeah. I've just been starting to pick these up. I think they're really great. They did a number of different patterns. And yeah, this is the Times Square 2000. So it's supposed to look like the ball that drops on Times Square, which I believe is also made by them. So it's just a miniaturization of the same. I had this same piece for sale recently and I did sell it, but mine did not have this interesting etch on the bottom, which I have not seen before. So apparently there's some different varieties of these. Another flea market find?
No, estate sale.
Estate sale. And what did you give for this? $5. Yeah, see, this is the thing. A whole lot of people are getting Waterford as gifts and not realizing that it's something special. And then when they're tired of it, they throw it at, oh, well, 2000's over, we'll put it in the garage sale. So it's, I think the piece I sold, I either got 40 or 45 for it. Yeah. Yes, and this Viking piece, this is one that we don't see so often, the big ashtray from the late 60s. And this was really a massive heavy piece of glass. I mean, Viking in general was heavy because it was molded, but this one is especially heavy and dense, and that's on purpose because even though it's only got room for a single cigarette, it would have been made to use in some institutional place where a lot of people were coming and going, maybe a doctor's office or some place where, you know, it's going to be a while before we empty this thing, and so that's why it's so big and deep. I've seen them etched or cut for cigars as well, so I think they did both. And it's nice that it's got the label. This sort of a smoky brown color is something we associate with their late production in the mid to late 1970s. To try to keep themselves going, they started introducing different colors because they were really well known for the oranges and the avocados. And when those started to go out of style, they tried every color under the rainbow. And some of these late colors are really the hardest to find. I think $30 to $35 to $40, any of those numbers is possible for this piece.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
$2 church sale.
$2 church sale, yeah. See, you live in the right place. The Fenton roses. What a nice basket. Now, I learned from Rosie and from some of you folks that the way the basket handles are attached is actually a signature and tells us who some of the makers were. And I've seen this one before, and I can't remember who did it, unfortunately, because I was all intrigued with that. So I spent a few minutes studying that, and now it's all gone out of my head. How did you get this piece?
Flea market.
Flea market, and it's got the Fenton label in it, so I'm sure they knew what it was. And what did they charge for this?
25.
25. I think that's very reasonable. This this really pretty blue with the it's like a blue slag because you've got a little bit of the white in there.
It's not called acro, like that's a different thing. Acroagate.
Acroagate is a different company. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I'm not sure. I just always assumed that Fenton called it blue slag. I don't know if they may have had an official name, and if someone here knows, shout it out. But these would have been done late 60s, early 70s in this color. This logo, this card is definitely a 70s vintage. And what's your feeling about this?
What my feeling is, I'm hyperventilating on the ash trees you have coming up.
That's
my feeling.
Well, let's look at
That's my
those two
feeling.
because they're also blue slag. So we'll take a look at that and then we'll get some values here.
Okay. So this piece is, oh, this is a heavy piece. This is very cool. And the handle, what I find interesting is, and Trudy will correct me if I'm wrong, this is for who made the handle alone.
And applied it, or just,
And applied it. It's the hand, the
Mhm.
the handle maker. This is a very cool basket. The color is gorgeous,
Yes.
blue slag. It's and still, like I tell you, I'm just going nuts over those. This would probably, I don't know, 45, 55.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yep.
thinking. 40 to 60, I
nice.
think you're right in. And
Put the handle on it was called Handler. That was the technical name.
oh, Handler was the name of
Yeah,
the
okay, there you
handle
go.
maker. Oh, that makes perfect sense. I like that. And then you've got these three, and these all stack. And
Yeah.
yeah, look how nice the slag is and the swirl on the bottoms. It really comes through on these pieces. And of course, we know who made it.
Yes.
is that Fenton?
It definitely is. The hobnails are very pointy, and that's a Fenton trademark.
And it has a bullseye. This is a bullseye. Okay, so that's a plus. That one has a bullseye.
Yeah,
Sometimes, okay.
Oh, nice.
So
they don't all have that.
I'm not book smart. I'm street smart. Okay. I can't tell you a lot about this set except I've never seen it, and I sell lots of Fenton. The color is amazing. The bullseye is amazing. People aren't going to have time to look this up, nor will they find it because they're not going to see that color and this.
Yeah.
Because people collect these and because you're not going to see these could be a sample or something. Who the heck knows? If I were buying it myself, I would pay upwards to 75 to 150, depending on if somebody was bidding me and I got really worked up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know,
I mean, I'm just saying.
and you know, I gotta go with her on this one because she's right. Just as she was saying, oh, no one's gonna find it if they look it up. I'm over here trying to look it up, and she's right. They are not out there. There's nothing listed that looks like this. I've seen them in the white hobnail many times, but I have not seen them in the slag. So I am gonna defer to her enthusiasm because I think they're really great too, and I think I think those numbers all make sense to me.
$5 church sale.
Fantastic. Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure. Now, are any of those other pieces yours? Okay,
Not yet.
very good. Well, we'll come back and do more. David, it looks like you've got something. Come on up.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, good to see you again.
I just want to know how much that are worth.
How much this is worth? Well, this one is a good one, and it's in good condition, and it's got good paint.
Yeah.
And the thing that it tells us that is important is it's got 2 dots between Pepsi and Cola. And that was their logo until 1955. Then they took 1 dot away. And so you have an earlier piece here. And what's interesting to me about these, a lot of these were made in the 1930s, and a lot of them were then promptly melted for a war effort. So you actually don't see as many of these with the 2 dot as you would expect, considering how long they made them. Also, Pepsi Pepsi went through a lot of ups and downs. They were not the most popular soda at first, and they actually they almost went out of business right before the Depression. And somebody came along and saved them and started, what they did is they made bigger bottles for the same price. And they had I think the slogan was Pepsi Cola hits the spot, 10 full ounces, that's a lot, because they were selling larger bottles. And that's what made them very popular. And so there aren't a ton of these around, not as many as Coca-Cola by a long shot. How did you get it?
Let's say I went to Goodwill.
Oh.
And I came across and I was like, Pepsi Cola. You know what? I'll buy that.
Yeah, that's great.
And I was like, it's a perfect piece to buy that.
Do you remember how much it was? Too long ago? Yeah. Well, the important thing is what it is now. And I think I have an idea, but I'm going to see if we can find one that sold recently and just tell you absolutely. Oops. Because I sold one that was 7-Up recently, and that was not the same. Yeah, that's about what I thought. They seem to be going for anywhere between about $90 and $120 now. And that's even without the bottles. So yeah, you got a good thing.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I also got another piece. Yeah, I got a stock card. All wrapped up. Got a stock card the other day, and it's Jimmy Spencer's Bush card way back in the day. And it says a yellow sponsor card.
Oh yes, yep. And these were his colors, and yeah, you could see him coming. And this one, you know, there are so many people interested in collecting die casts, and it's the race cars that do the best. And generally, the thing that makes these collectible, even though they're not super old, is that as soon as the race car driver retires, or like Dale Earnhardt, something happens to them, then all of a sudden the edition is something from the past. And that's why there's collectors for these.
Yeah.
I think that one's a pretty nice one. And I've seen other Jimmy Spencers. I have a friend who collects these too. And I think he paid $50 or $60 for his. And do you remember what you gave for yours? 25. Yeah. Well, I think you got a good deal. I think you paid about half price.
We got it across the street.
Did you really? Oh, so this is a brand new acquisition on this trip.
This is like back in the day, between 1999 and early 2000, but way back in the day.
Yes, exactly. And you know, that seems to be, I think people are going to look back and say that's sort of the golden age of these as more people start collecting them. So I think you got a good deal.
Now I got one more piece here. We got a David Leavely Ring Race Bros Circus Clown.
It's from 96.
99, yeah.
I got some of his programs.
Oh, that's neat. That's interesting.
I can't tell which. I think it's this one he did the black uniform.
Are you particularly interested in this performer? Is that why you collect these?
Yeah.
That's neat. What got you interested?
Anyway, me and Mom went to circus way back in the day.
Oh, and you saw these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circus are fun things to go to.
They really are, and of course Ringling Brothers isn't going anymore. There's other circuses, but Ringling quit about 3 years ago, and I sell down in Florida in the wintertime. And I'll tell you, as soon as they quit the performances, all of this stuff shot up in value because Ringling Brothers is no more. And there are people, they actually had a sale and they sold off the things they took with them in the traveling circus. And there were dealers lined up for a mile trying to get in to buy the stuff. The programs, usually I see prices around $15 to $20 each. And this guy, I'm going to see.
He has a black jacket in his music instruments.
Yes, yeah, and it's complete, and that's important that it has all the pieces with it.
Actually has two.
Got two.
Oh, that's great.
You can see the little bit white on his face there and the little
Mhm.
red cheeks there.
Yep. Oh, that's neat.
You can tell his shirt and his that's his silk.
Yeah, they're actually really well made. I mean, the thing is no one ever takes them out and plays with them, but they are very well made. How much did you get paid for that? Do you remember? It's been a long time.
I can just tell you this. Even for me, then it was a lot because it was a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah. They were not that inexpensive new, and it's I'm seeing prices around $50 to $75 on the clown, the piece itself now.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you brought some stuff.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Yes, good to see you too. Now, are there any other folks here who have anything that you would like me to take a look at?
one of them down there.
Oh, okay, great.
It's ephemeral.
Oh, I like ephemera. Let's take a look.
Two other barbershop pieces.
Oh, great. Yeah, go ahead and why don't you set those down? If you want to bring those up, we'll take a look. Now, while we're waiting for her to bring her other pieces, we'll take a look at the first page here. She said she had a bunch of ephemera, and we've got $2 bills right off there.
I had clients that would always, I did hair for years, would give me $2 bills.
You know, it's funny. When I conduct estate sales, I always end up getting $2 bills. No other time, but when I conduct an estate sale, every time somebody pays me with the two. I think what it is that they go home, they see something they want, and they're like, "Where's the money?" And they just pull money out of every drawer, and there's always some. Oh, they stuck the $2 bill aside because they didn't know what to do with it.
So I felt like, well, I'll leave them in there in case we have to bug out. I got about $3.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and you know, the thing is that these have never been used, so they're probably worth about $3 each.
Yeah. Some of them are worth more than others, like with any money, I think.
Yes,
Certain
old ones, certain issues, or certain things, condition matters. Now this is fun because you've got you've got a variety of stuff here.
Can we hit the first and walk a little bit?
Sure.
Here's a signed Eric Davis baseball card. We
Oh,
actually
cool.
have Damon has it, Pete Rose rookie card. This ticket right here, I went to with Sean O'Reilly in 1985, and it was a triple header, and this was when Pete Rose made his record hit.
Oh,
that's what
neat.
this ticket stub is from.
Oh, wow.
And it was standing room only.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
that place went crazy.
Oh yeah, now that is a really great story because to have a baseball ticket from a regular season game usually wouldn't be considered any big deal,
Right.
but when it's a game where a record was set, that's a pretty huge deal.
And it was, and I'm like, where's that rookie card? Because he used to have it up, and then we something, and then just general some baseball cards. And it's a mixed baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Inaugural season stamps. My favorite NASCAR driver was Ernie Irvin.
Aw.
Stevie Ray Vaughan died, and you can see that in not too long, it was him and Joe Cocker. And when they would tour, they would switch off headlining. Joe would headline one night, and Stevie would headline the other night.
Right.
And then I got to see him backstage, and this is my backstage pass from
Oh, how
1987.
fun. You got to meet him. Aw,
Yeah.
He was quite
I sure did. It was a long time ago. He was really cool, and it was really, really neat. And I miss him. Here is my Steven Tyler. I did a grip tour. I go backstage. I know I don't want to talk about it, but I know a lot of people in the music business. I have for years. And just my Doodle cards. And I know that's just a stock sign. And then my Rolling Stones. Here was like something that happened. This was a controversy in Cincinnati. And here I am right here.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm right there. That's me.
Oh, wow.
And I was part of about that 400 people And we had to camp, we camped out to get what was called roll tickets back in the day, because this was in the 80s.
Yes.
They got up and they were only going to give out 200, and everybody almost had a riot. So they gave out more. So it talks about
Oh, that's a great story.
and then my Ronnie James Dio tribute. And then the Love Mongers.
Oh, yes.
And then here's, if y'all need some money, I got $1 million bill.
Oh, thank you.
And then here's a little political release.
Yes, the $3 Clinton bill. Yes, I think that one goes in my collection.
Stones and my Jimmy Page. This is my friend Rick Thompson Productions.
Oh, yes.
This stuff. Here's my Greg Allman backstage pass with Greg's
Oh, that's cool. Let me turn it so that just for a second, I want to turn it so the folks watching at home. Ooh, I'm sorry. I also don't want to lose that. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. I just wanted the folks at home to be able to see. So she's got a lot of concert tickets, signed backstage passes, and the kind of stuff that everybody threw away. And she knew people in the music business and was able to get to these things. So this is a very interesting collection.
Do you remember the band Coco?
Yes.
Rusty Young, and this is actually, it says Richard Marks, but Russ, I signed it. Rusty's no longer with us, and he was married to my boyfriend's sister.
Oh, wow.
At the time, so that was the concert we went and hang out with Rusty. And then I got to hang out with Stephen Wright.
Oh, Stephen Wright.
And John
yes.
Emery is the brother of the sister to Rusty. Rusty was John's brother-in-law.
Oh, wow.
There we go. So that's why they're together.
Small world, yes.
Rusty's no longer with us. He's in a Bill Graham. And then my foster son, I used to date Tony.
Did you really? Oh, wow.
Roger dated Tony for a year.
Oh, that's neat.
And then I've got some personal pictures. This is my uncle party, and that's party is my personal picture of Robert Plant.
Oh, how fun.
And this is, I used to be a platform hair designer. I traveled around. So,
oh, neat.
Yeah.
So you actually have your name on that one because you were. Oh, I bet there's some crazy stuff. Yes.
Here's my Steve Miller signature.
Oh.
Jethro Tull. They do a lot of things I'm trying today to talk about.
Yeah, I bet.
And then my Megadeth, and then my Ronnie James Dio, and then Annie's Rock and Roll. And then we get to the back, which are some picks. I sold a lot of picks. I sold my Carl Wilson. So I have a few picks. And then I have some, these are some of my personal pictures of Lonesome Dave Previtt, who's been gone for a while from Foghat.
Oh, yes.
And then Rod Price, who unfortunately Rod fell down some stairs and died.
Oh.
Years ago after Dave. And this is Tony Stevens and Dave. And this was at Annie's small club. And more Beatles cards. But you said you were a Leon Russell fan?
Oh, yes, I enjoy it.
I kind of keep stuff here.
Oh, that's neat.
This is something small. So, remember me talking about a lifer?
Uh-huh.
Leon gave me my lifer card.
Oh,
And he signed that.
Leon Russell, Leon Lifer, and there's the signature.
Yeah, and then here's another, this sign. That's the signature. And then I have other signed stuff. This was small enough to bring, but he presented me with this. And I think little black crows, something they gave away to the concert.
Right.
I've got a whole lot more stuff, but this is the small stuff. And then this is a Dave Mason who's touring.
Oh,
And this kind I've had this for a while. And then it talks about his discography and everything about Dave Mason. And the inside is really fascinating.
Oh, I bet, because it talks all about him and what he's done and where he's going, and has pictures and shows. Oh, he even shows his family in here. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's it. So.
Wow. Well, this is a really interesting collection, and evaluating a collection like this is always fun because, you know, individual pieces. The big question with something like this, when you find a scrapbook full of interesting things, and particularly when you know the person, they collected it all and it was related in your case to your career in some ways, it makes it a little different to evaluate because there's what they oh yes, and then there's this wonderful thing with all of the novelties you could send out for in the back of the magazines and get in all sorts of trouble with your parents with.
Yes.
You know, with the collection like this, the question is it worth more piece by piece or is it worth more as a collection? For sentimental reasons, and I doubt you're ever going to want to sell much of any of this
I have
other
part
than
of it,
parts of it,
and then
right?
I like felt sick when I did. Like
Yeah.
all my Carl Wilson Beach Boy things, kind of in my back company. There's a someone thought, why'd you do that? Because I'm still kind of attached to it.
Yeah, sometimes you start to sell something because, well, I need the money, or I just think that, oh, this is somebody's passed on and the iron's hot, this is the time to sell. The problem is that when it's your own personal collection, you've got sentimental value
And true memories.
and real memories, and you also have what they call collection effect. So the question is it worth more to sell these pieces individually or to keep them all together because they tell a story not just about these people, but about you and your life? And in this case, I would say, especially because it sounds like your heart is into keeping it, it would be worth more to you and probably in the long run more to someone else if it was kept all together. I would recommend, this is going to sound strange, but since we're talking about the group as a collection, and I mean, you've got some signatures of some famous people, individually a signed backstage pass might be $30 or $40, but when you show this whole thing and it relates to your career, if you were to write a little bit, whatever you feel comfortable with, about your story and how you came to get these things and meet these people, that would actually make it interesting on another level to a future collector where they would keep the collection together rather than splitting it
Because
out.
the Greg Allman story is very sweet.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm sure that you saw some stuff because you were around a bunch of musicians and we all know the reputation.
There's a way, I wasn't that. I fancied myself as a rock journalist.
Yes.
And I made lots of friends doing that. I ended up with long-term boyfriend. Then when I went to Ibiza with Tony.
How cool.
And they would be off tour. Tony would come see us. You know. He lives in Florida. Roger lives in New York.
Interesting.
And they don't get along.
Unfortunately, that does happen sometimes with, especially with bands. I was in a band and we were small and we never really made any big strides or became famous on any level. We played in a few local bars around Seattle and thought that was great because really famous bands had played there too. And I'll tell you, even in our little band, we had issues and personnel and people who liked each other who then didn't like each other. It's just awful. It's a really sad side effect. I think when you get too many creative people in one place, it's hard to get one person to sort of rope them all in. That's the manager. Yeah. But that is a wonderful collection. You know, just for insurance purposes, since it's something you plan to keep, if you were going to insure it, I would probably insure it for $1,200 to $1,500 because you have, and the thing is, you've got a lot more at home. I'm giving you a fairly high value, but because this is personal, yeah, big things, posters and things, yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
I bet. Oh yeah, that's true.
I have all kinds of stuff.
I'm sure it could be anything, yeah.
Yeah, but I figured I'd narrow it down, not be so ADD.
It's really cool, and I think it's a great collection, and
Glad to
I
know that.
think it's really, I think because it says a lot about you, your story being part of it would be really helpful.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
Well, this is my treasure that I picked up across the street.
You just got this
I just
across
got
the street. There's a very nice antique mall across the street from here that I'm hoping to see tomorrow because I haven't been able to get in. These are really neat overshot glass pieces as well. Overshot, you notice it's got this texture because they actually will, they essentially put, oh, I guess you would almost call it like glass grit.
Yes.
And then they melt it again. So you get this texture and it's very rough and pebbly. And this piece, which is a little older, it feels almost sharp to the touch. You can feel the little pieces on it. This one has a nice sort of a silver plate bail and handle there. And this would have, it probably had a metal lid originally.
But I wanted
But you know what? It's perfectly cute without.
Yes.
And what did you get for these pieces? And
I talked him down to 90 from 130.
90 on the compo. That's a
Yes.
good price.
I thought that was reasonable.
I think that's very reasonable, and I think you
And I like
actually.
the color, it's cranberry, and I went around and I couldn't find
I like
any.
the color,
Cracks or
and
chips.
I don't see any either. They always tell us to use our palms because your fingertips get calluses, and sometimes you miss. And you have to be careful on overshot because the edge is rough anyway to make sure you're not missing. This is in great shape.
And that's cranberry.
It's a great color and a hard color to find. Cranberry back then had to have, well, even now, you had to put 22 or 24 karat gold in the back to make the color.
I've got cranberry, this is my largest piece now.
It's a great piece, and you know, I think it was a little underpriced at the 130 they had on it. I think it
It was
could
the
be.
only one they had in there.
I think it could be 100.5, and you got it for 90. So I
They
think
said
that's
they
a
don't
great
ever
thing.
get it.
You just don't see overshot. It went into collections when I was first in the trade in the early 90s. We'd see a few pieces, and people would just snap them up, and I don't think they let go of them.
Do you know what this is for? It's the way this is shaped. To me, it seems like did something sit in there?
Yeah, my guess, and
Got a
it's got
base
some
or
wear in
something?
here. I have a
Yes,
feeling
that's
that
what
it
I
had,
thought.
it may have had a small base, like an ephemeron that sat in it, or it could have been more likely a flower frond. I think so.
Because I'm looking at it and it had something in it.
It had something, yeah, because this looks almost like an etch, but I think it's actually, oh no, it is a design. No, that's an etch design. I'm looking at it again from an angle now, and now I see it. It's actually like a snowflake. So no, they just did it in the middle as a decoration. This didn't have anything in the middle of it. Yeah, so this is actually a snowflake design that they etched in here. And I'll bet the reason they did it is because they figured the bowl would be a little plain and they wanted it to match the design of the rest of the piece. That is unusual. I'm glad you asked me about that. That's fun.
Okay.
And then the little piece, yep, the little pedestal sugar is probably English. Yes, a lot of these were. And I would say that your value on that is probably around, probably 45 to 50 without the lid. And maybe more like 75, 85 if you could find the lid would have been very simple, and even biscuit barrels might have the same lid. So you may just find a lid that is this kind of metal with a simple knob. Yeah.
I do have one of this. I could try it. Well, thank you.
That was so fun. I think you brought really interesting things, and actually everybody did. This was a really nice grouping of items that we got to see here.
Okay, thank you.
Randy, did you have any more? Okay. If anyone else has anything else for us to look at, we'd be glad to take a look for you.
I have an idea.
Sure.
We have Jim, but we have Mr. Cuddy in the house. Would you like him to look at your vase?
Oh, I think that'd be a wonderful idea.
Dave, could you come on camera for a minute?
We'll get.
Can you talk about your vase? Can you come on and talk about your vase?
Well, we're going to have Dave Cuddy coming up in just a second. Dave used to be a blower for Fenton. He worked at Blanco as well, and he now works for himself. We just saw him this morning blowing glass over at Henderson Hall on the other side of the river here in West Virginia. I'm sorry? Yes, he is considered a master craftsman, and he has earned that designation. It was really fun watching him earlier today. And we're going to have him come up now, and he's going to tell us a little bit.
Is it okay with you?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love that.
So Dave, why don't you take a seat there so you can see yourself in the camera. You're going to go on with George. George will introduce you. And we have this beautiful piece that you made that is just awesome.
Wait a minute.
I know.
I didn't do the same thing.
I know you
I
did.
did make the vase.
But you can tell us what's involved in this. Huh?
Oh, that's okay. I can fill in where you leave off because I know how they did the other labels. No, I'd like you to talk about the base itself though, because and we'd like everyone to meet you and know what you did. And actually, do you mind making one other piece that he did, like one of the swirls or something? That
Yes,
might be
I
fun to show too. So Dave's a master craftsman, and we got to see him blow glass earlier today. How long have you been doing this?
To 19 years old.
Since you were 19. That's fantastic. So about 10 years. Yeah, very good. Oh, that's fantastic. So tell me about making this piece. I know you made the base and then the cameo carvers did the overlays, but tell me about making the base itself, because with cameo, the base has to be solid because otherwise it will crack and explode when you're making it. Well, I mean, it's got to be in good shape. It can't have any problems because when they go to carve it, it would break. So what you did had to be perfect for them to have as a start, right?
Well, I don't know if it's perfectly divided or not.
Well, there might not be anything because they're all freeform, so they're all a little individual. But tell me about making the base for this.
Let me see.
Is this what it looks like underneath, Dave? If it didn't
Yeah,
have,
some of that, yes.
okay, that's what I brought that up for.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's what it was. That's what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Underneath
That's
all.
the mosaic color.
Yeah, there's the mosaic of colors before, and then this is after carving in a cameo form. This is what you get.
Hey, see, you gather your base color with black.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as soon as you gather, everything's hot. Then you have a bucket of this, what we call frit glass.
Right.
And then you take it, cover that whole thing, the whole glass.
With the frit, yeah.
With the frit, and you do the wood hole and all melt in. Then you got to block it all out smooth.
Right.
And then you go reheating it and you get all blood into the shape.
Okay, so you had to actually do, you had to make the basic piece, or form the basic piece, put the frit in on it, and
You
then
put the frit on first.
you put the frit on first, and then you do take it to the firing.
You're not quite understanding.
No, let me have you tell me.
You gather your double glass. Then you have all this frit in a bucket.
Okay.
And then you pick out all that up while it's hot.
Oh, I see.
And then
Okay.
you go to the furnace, let that all melt in together. And then you gotta go to a block it all out nice and smooth.
Right.
Then you gotta get your shape, go to the mold, put it into this shape.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes to the annealing lamp. It looks like this right here, this color right here.
Right, with the.
And then it's masked it over, and same card.
Then they would carve back to get the design.
Right.
Interesting, yeah. And what's so exciting about this is the fact that you did all of these different colors in it. And so when it's carved back, you get all this different color in the design. And I think it's fascinating. This sort of is similar to some of the work you're doing now, isn't it?
Yes, similar. But also this, after it's blonde, and get the shape. It's hot.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a spray booth and you spray it, get these out there. You know, there's colors in there.
Oh, okay. I see. So that's where you get the iridescence is the final layer over the top of everything. So you see in here where it's shiny because that's the last thing. This is some sort of a metallic oxide that they spray on. And that's what causes the shine in carnival glasses, a lot of people call it.
Right.
Very neat.
And this is cool too, Dave, because it's a collaboration piece between you, right?
What do you mean?
Well, somebody helped you do the sand carving, or somebody did the sand carving, and then
No, that didn't help me.
well, it's a collaboration piece.
I just made the piece, and then somebody else did the same.
Yeah, he made the piece
Yeah.
solid with these colors.
Okay, so it's a collaboration effort
I didn't have
for the
anything to do
final
with-
piece.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with the sand card.
It's beautiful, Dave.
Now, what you were doing, some of these lines are very different than what Fenton was known for at the time. How did you convince them to let you do these styles?
Well, I didn't actually convince them.
They wanted it. Oh, that's
George,
interesting.
You're talking to Freddie,
Mm-hmm.
and Dave, you're the master, right? It's funny. Yeah, they were privileged to have Dave here, and he did so many designs and just modern stuff.
See, I was a supervisor for 23 years.
Ah, okay. So you had the inside track, yeah.
Well, then when it get ready for the Glass Packers convention, I would make special stuff for the special room to have for them.
Ah, okay.
Then I retired in '99, and I was off couple, 3 months, and they called me up and said, we realized we don't have no one making glass for the special room. Would you come back? And so I went back and I agreed what I'd work for and what I would do.
Oh, that's great. And how fun to go back and be able to just do the most special pieces.
But it grew into more than just for the special room. It grew into a lot of consort pieces, more of kind pieces. And then I was still having to close down.
Oh, that's
and nobody told me what to do or how to do. I had to run the whole factory.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you made some really great things that were really unique for them that wouldn't have come about if they hadn't just let you have the free run. Oh, that's so nice. I
picked out what mold I want to use, or want to do it freehand, or what color I wanted. I did it.
Well, and I really like, I've always liked these sort of pulled bases like this, and I was so pleased to find this one. I knew Marion Thornton, who had the Collector's Showcase out in Washington.
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, and she, a lot of the pieces that I brought actually came from her old shop. She was my mentor in glass when I first started as far as understanding and appreciating it.
I know her.
Yeah, she was always really pleased to bring your things in because they were just so different than the rest of the line. And I think that she really enjoyed having something else, and I'm sure enjoying seeing it. And it's such a pleasure to meet you.
Well, it's nice to meet you too.
Yeah, this is just great. Well, I hope that we're going to get to see you for dinner or something, because I would love to talk shop with you. You have had a really amazing career here.
Well, I have. I have had a good career.
Do you like working on your own now?
Well, I did work on mine.
Well, I mean, I know you really did, but I just mean now that you're doing for the hall and it's all your own.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, because you still get that same freedom that you had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun watching you earlier. Who was the fellow who was working with you today?
His name was Mark. Wow, he worked at the hall doing everything.
Oh, okay.
So I taught him to do what I needed.
Oh, nice. You made him you made him your apprentice, I guess. Helper, that's right. An apprentice is another level, isn't it?
Apprentice we learn to do what I did.
To do what you do, right. And this guy's just coming around and coming with the hot pipe and some extra gathers and things. Yeah. Well, that is fantastic. It sure is fun watching you do this, and
I fun doing it.
Yeah, I bet you do. How did you come into this at age 19?
I needed a job.
Yep. And you're from here, and they were hiring?
I was Milton with you.
Oh, that's right. You were in Milton. I forget.
And I was Blanco, and whether we made a lunch hour, we had an hour for lunch. Whether we made, you got to home.
Oh, nice. Oh, interesting.
And then I had to work for a big glass door shop.
I'm going to ask you to explain what this is.
Techniques and other things to do.
Think you can? Okay.
Oh.
Don't know what.
And I was there 5 years ago in Holland. Pieces. And then I worked at a couple of plants.
Canola. Oh, and Bishop too. Wow, you've been to a lot of places.
Well, see, Maggie Collins bought out.
Yes, that's right. They bought a few people out. Yep.
And then they're doing good. So then we got running plants up.
Can't hear well? No, that's all right. It's not talking loud.
Yep. And
64.
And now so 64 you started with them. Wow, that's what an amazing career. It's so exciting to meet you and get to see the stuff that you did, and I'm just so excited that you're still doing it. It was really fun watching you today.
Hey, Dave.
What?
Hey, Dave. You got to talk up a little louder. Nobody can hear you. This was a gift to George from someone here. Can you tell him what this is?
It's colored glass.
What is colored glass?
That right there.
Is that? Well, I know. You guys are getting to know Dave. Okay. So what is colored glass? We have a lot of people who are new collectors. They have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, when you work a pot down so low you can't get more together out of it, they have to ladle the rest of it out. And then it breaks up into chunks like this. So that's what we call colored glass.
So is this Fenton glass that Is this all Fenton glass?
Well, it looks like it, I don't know.
So would they use that? Could they remelt it down and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I melt down there. It's colored glass, only got Blenko.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I saw the boxes. Okay.
Yeah. I get, of course, I have smaller pieces than this.
So anyway, this was a gift. I don't know what one of our members
Yeah, that was really nice.
gifted it
They
to
asked if I
George
would
as
like to have it, and it's really fun. I'm glad to have a couple of pieces. I just think it's neat. It's so, to see it in its raw form like that.
But I got big Jeep. I got pieces like that in my landscape.
Yes, I have
Oh,
another
neat.
interesting fact about Dave. He has the only marble garden that I know of. And if you drove by his house, all his flower beds are full of marbles, and then he has the plants that are coming up. But the one thing that's interesting, you laid the marbles down once, and they're all Fenton marbles, right? And,
Now, wait a minute.
okay, go ahead, correct me.
It's Fenton glass. It's not Fenton marble.
Okay, right.
Fenton didn't make marble.
That's true.
That's true. So his whole garden, you laid down all these marbles, and then what happened? You didn't put black underneath it, so you had to pull up all those marbles?
Well, I did, but what I put in was regular thin stuff, and still the weeds come up to it.
Oh,
So I picked them back up and laid down
a heavier layer.
like a trash bag.
Yep.
And you told me those buckets of marbles that you had to pull up, how heavy were they? Did you tell me how heavy they were?
I didn't.
But you told me that you could pick two of them up with one hand, couldn't you?
Not two of them.
Well, Dave, it's been wonderful for you to be here. So we're going to see you tomorrow for our annual Dave Fuddy Day. And I know if you don't come, I'm going to come find you. I'll hunt you down.
What time?
5 or 5:30. I'll let Janet know.
5:30.
Okay. All right.
I'll keep you in mind.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to meet you. Yes.
Okay. Do we have anybody else? Jim Schauber.
Heidi.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we have somebody here and then Jim.
Okay. Hi, no, come right up here.
The chair back.
Hello there.
Hi. Because we didn't really know what
Yeah.
the markings on this represented.
Okay. Let's take a look and actually, I think I can tell you something about this because you said the markings and you didn't see. Yeah, actually, I can tell you a bunch about this. This is kind of exciting for me to see. Okay. So you notice on the bottom, this is hand blown, so it has a pontil mark where they break the blowpipe. Notice that it has a waffle pattern to it right there. I'm going to hold this up on both of our screens so that everybody can see. So there's a waffle pattern to it. And then there's an arch with a P in the middle of it. That's that other mark. Okay, so when I was very new to the business and involved with the big antique mall out west, we had a connection with Marion Thornton, who Dave was just talking about, who had the collector's showcase out there. And she primarily did Fenton glass, but she also bought Pilgrim cameo glass, which was the carved like the piece we just had here. Pilgrim made a whole lot of other stuff in their West Virginia factory near Huntington. And we opened a factory outlet store for them. And we told them, we really think you should put some sort of a mark on your pieces so that people who buy one will start like Fenton did, so we can keep collecting. So at our suggestion, they came up with the arch with the P in about 1990. The waffling was because Fenton did not polish, they didn't fire polish their pontils, and they didn't want them to be rough and sloppy like the Blenko pontils were. So they would just take a tool that had left an impression that looked like a waffle and stick it on the bottom to finish off the finial. So they did that, and then they put the embossed stamp with the P on it, and it was ready to go. So this is a Pilgrim glass piece from about 1990. This one was not one that we sold. This wasn't really in their line very long. This is probably a late 80s piece that they continued to make a little bit on special order in the early 90s. I would say the value is probably maybe $45 to $65 right now, depending on the client. Pilgrim isn't as much collected by its name as Blenko or Fenton are. But they had some really great designers, one of whom is now designing for Blenko. So there's starting to be more understanding, and people are starting to catch on to this stuff. And I think that, you know, people keep asking me, what do you buy from the 80s? The 80s are going to be the next generation people collect. What should I be buying? I think Pilgrim Glass is one of those things. So.
Okay, thank you. That's a gem.
Oh, this is great. This is really great because it's the monkey, and you do not see the monkeys nearly as much as you see the trolls. How did you get this?
Oh my God! Happenstance. We got a lot of.
A bunch of stuff
I know where
in
you
trolls.
find them if you want them.
Now I'm gonna look and see if this one. Okay, this one has the 1966 our Schurter label, and this one is USA. So this one's a little bit surprising in that most of the older ones were made by Thomas Dam and Company in Denmark, but this one is a USA made thing. And the Danish ones with the monkey faces are the most desirable of those. I haven't really encountered this particular USA mark, so let me see if I can find anything with it. I think he's great, and he's got a great face. And let me see if I put troll in if that comes up.
You're gonna get troll beads when you put in Denmark and trolls.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Familiar with that. If you love glass.
I don't find a particular listing for this one, but if it was a Thomas Dam piece, it would probably sell in the $150 range because they really like these faces. Whether this one is going to be more because it's a more obscure company made in America or the same or less, I don't really know, to be honest, because we just don't see the American made ones. My inclination would be to think that it might be more, or at least for the first, if you were to sell this, I would go higher because the first person who hasn't seen one is going to say, oh, that's unusual, and they may pay more for it on that basis. And that would be valid because they seem to be rather scarce. Yes, yes.
So it's not
great.
Thomas Dam?
It's not Thomas Dam, D-A-M. Yeah, they would refer to them as Dam troll dolls because it was salacious sounding. But yeah, no, it's Schurter is the name, and it is written on this foot here.
So it would be a little more rare.
I think it might be scarcer than the Thomas Dam, yeah. I mean, he's a small guy, but he's really cute.
Okay. Beautiful box.
Oh, yes. How did you get this piece?
I cannot divulge my secrets.
That's okay. You don't have to. I just always ask. This one is cloisonné, and it is marked China on the back, which is nice. Because the Japanese and the Chinese both did these, but the Chinese tended to have a more detailed field in the background. So if you see one that doesn't have a mark and you're trying to decide is it Chinese or Japanese, look in the background, and if there's a lot of design, it's Chinese, and if there's not much, it's probably Japanese. And these China marks, you know, a lot of people say, oh, it says China, so it's not old. Well, this is nationalist China. This is probably 1920s or 30s era. So it actually does have some age. It's almost old enough to be a true antique. It's got a really nice design to it. The colors are neat. It's in good condition. It doesn't have dents. There's not pieces that are falling off. You know, the way they make these, all of these little pieces here are wire, and then they have to enamel in between all of them. So it was really labor intensive. And so I would say this piece, in the right place, probably 85 to 100.
I think there's one more thing here wrapped up.
Okay. And I love all this color you've got going.
I actually have a clock at my own house. That you're gonna be here tomorrow or no?
I will.
I might have to bring my clock down.
Oh, please do, yes. Yeah, I'm going to try to schedule some time because I'd like to get out and look at some of the other things in town here. So I'm probably going to come. She does usually does a morning sale around 10 o'clock. I'll probably come then for about an hour, and then I might be around town, and then I'll be back. So now this little piece here, tell me what you know about this.
I don't.
Okay, well, that's a fair
I honestly don't.
Okay, well, let me see if I do. This has some interesting texture to it.
It does.
And it's done in a mold, and it almost looks like lettering, but it really is just a banded design. The thing that's interesting about this piece to me, I like the color wash. The design, there's so much design, and the design is so random that I think it's 1960s, but the general feel of it reminds me a lot of Consolidated Glass from the 1920s when they were doing things called the Catalonian line, and it really has that feel, but it's got a little more design than that would have in it. So I don't believe it's theirs, and I don't see any sort of marking on it either. Oh wait, no, yep, there is a mark.
Yay.
Okay, this is signed. It's a studio piece. And yeah, it's a studio piece with a very illegible F signature, and it looks like SAL, like Sal, and then a line, and then there's just another mark at the end. It really is illegible.
Your eyesight's better than mine.
Well, I had the help of the loop because, you know, the thing with a lot of this studio glass, this honestly is probably 1980s, and I bet they were influenced by Catalonian and other glass that they had seen. I can't read the signature enough to give it an attribution, I'm afraid. And there's so many small studios that, you know, there's still only, in the 60s and 70s, and it was true all over the world, not just in the US, but there was, with the hippie ethos in the US, a lot of people decided to do art on their own and build studios and blow glass and make art and create pottery. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people who did it. And unfortunately, there's not enough scholarship on all of them yet to be able to attribute some of these pieces. I'm leaning towards European rather than American. I think circa 1980. I can't tell you more without more research or the benefit of maybe somebody comes along who bought this set new, knows what it is, and tells us all about it. So,
and that's all we have.
That's it, right, exactly. I'm sure originally there was probably a decanter and maybe 6 of these, and it
Someone
was
got drunk and worked them all.
probably so, or got drunk and put one in the donation box by mistake. Yes. So I'm sorry I can't tell you more. I think it's interesting as it is, you know, maybe a $15 piece, but could it be more? Absolutely, if we can find out who it is.
Okay, that was cool.
Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I have a little clock that it has little teeter-tottering people on it.
Oh, fun, yeah.
And it looks like a little chateau.
Oh, like a Mastercraft
So,
clock, yes.
I don't know. I think it's at least 100 years old.
They're great fun, and it depends on, there were a couple different versions of those, so when you bring it, I'll be able to tell you
I'm
which age.
54 and my mother's 85, and she remembers it when she was
When
young.
she was young,
So
yeah.
I'm like, could be 100 years old.
Yeah, it's probably, I'm guessing from that description, 1930s, but they did them in
Okay,
the
that would be
50s as well,
reasonable.
so.
Okay.
But yeah, bring it along and we'll take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was fun, and you brought some different stuff. I love this little guy.
Well, you said it was worth how much?
I think it could be worth 150, and
I'll take it.
I bet you'll get it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't worry, Jim. Jim's worried. Him and Wanda are new collectors, and they just love glass.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they collect on color and stuff like that. So he's worried about this being new, and I'm like, well, we don't really know anything about it. So I said, don't worry.
We said to bring it in, so.
It's beautiful anyway.
It is a beautiful piece, and I'm glad you brought it in. And the other piece you have is interesting too. So tell me how you got this.
Oh, well, I got it by being married to Wanda.
Oh, well, congratulations. So is it twofer.
And that's
Asheville, South Carolina.
Oh, very nice.
We were down in Asheville, and we went to some boutique or somewhere, and we walked out with that. Well, you walked out with that, yeah.
I did.
And do you mind me asking how much they asked for it? Wow. Okay. She whispered, so I guess it's a secret, but it was not expensive. We'll just put it at that. It's a nice piece. It is relatively recent vintage. This was done probably in the 1980s or 90s, but it was based on what we always referred to in the business when I was starting as cloud glass, which was done in Europe, particularly France and Czechoslovakia around the 1920s. And it's where it has sort of a swirl of colors that are, it's not all one color, it's various colors, and it's supposed to sort of put you in mind of the sky or clouds or that sort of thing. So that is what this piece is based on. These styles became really popular again. This style of glass and this look became really popular again about 35 years ago. And that's when I think this piece was made. And the reason I say that is because the bottom here, first of all, it's got this felt liner that's on the inside, and that's something they did in that period of time. And it's got that sheen to the bottom. It's not oxidized with age. So having said that, I still think that a console bowl like this, it's not old enough to have a lot of collector value yet, but it has decorative value. And if I were going to price this, say in a store as a decorative piece, I mean, I might put $50 to $75 on it. And that's a today price. As time goes on and people start to clue into this and this gets further back in time, I think it will escalate.
What does this put fruit in it, or what?
This would have been a compote, so yes, it would have been a fruit bowl. I've seen people even, to be honest with you, I've seen people take these, if they're big enough, take them off the base, cut a hole in the bottom, and put them in a cabinet as a sink. I have friends who did that with a piece very similar to this, yeah. But it was made to be a fruit compote or a centerpiece, a console bowl. Yes. And then you've got one other piece down there that I think is really neat looking. And these fascinate me because of the way they're made. And how did you get this one?
I married Wanda.
So it's a three-fer. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, it's a piece that she picked up. It was really quite recent, wasn't it?
Yes.
And very local.
And do you mind whispering or giving me the hindsight of what you paid for it, if you remember? Oh, very good. Again, she didn't pay a lot. This is a nice piece, and I'm always fascinated with the way that they're able to blow these into the piece in a way, because, you know, the glass is so hot, you would think it would stick to it and that it couldn't be done, and you can't take it out. No, the way it's made, it is in there permanently. I always found that kind of fascinating. I think what they do, actually, it's sort of like the ship in the bottle. I think what they do is they actually have a mold they blow it into, and they blow them all the same, and then they attach the frame and do the welds, and that's why it won't come out of the glass. Because if you tried to do these two things at the same time, they would explode and break. You couldn't do it. Most of this work that I see was done in Spain and that part of Europe in the late 1960s. Particularly, this was really popular. Although you see metalwork like this around even ceramics as far back as like the 1920s and 30s. So it's come and gone a couple of times. But you don't see it a lot because it's hard to do and it costs a lot of money. So I think this one is probably, my guess is about 1970. It has some evidence of wear. It's not brand new. It's also not old enough or heavy enough to be the 1920s version. I find it really likable, and when I've had pieces like this, I don't get them often, and usually I see pieces like this sell $75, $100. So again, the price she paid, which wasn't much, is not much at all. She did very well. And apparently you did very well.
Yeah.
Too.
Yay, Wanda. Uh-oh, Wanda's got some, she was not going to show this, but she's now
okay.
Now
while we're here. All right, we have one more piece. Oh, this is nice, and this is great. It wouldn't be an appraisal fair without seeing a really lovely old pocket watch. And this has a very nice case. How did you get this case?
It was a gift for a birthday from my brother.
A birthday gift from your brother. Oh, that's very nice. He must have known you liked old things.
Well, he was a jeweler himself.
Oh. He was a watchmaker and a jeweler. Oh, how nice. Let's see. Well, I'm hoping that I can easily open the case. It's not a push button. There we go. Oh, good. It opened very nicely for us. So, okay. The first thing that we're looking for is whether we can determine the material. It looks to me that this is real gold. Is that what he told you? Yeah, I thought so.
Whoa.
I thought so, because usually when you open the back of a watch case, if it's a gold case, it doesn't say so, but if it says guaranteed or warranted, then it's plated, because that guarantee or warranty was for how many years the plating would last before it wore off. This particular one is an American Waltham. These were done in Connecticut, where a lot of watchmaking was done. It was there in Chicago. And back then, when we, at the turn of the century, now this is a lady's watch, and you notice that when you open it, it's sideways, because the reason being, you have this hung on a fob or perhaps around your neck. And that way, when you open the front of the watch, you can easily turn it and see what time it is. That's why it's mounted sideways rather than up and down. This particular one is going to date right about 1900 or shortly before.
I've been told it's 1883.
1883, okay, I'm sure that's right, because there's a really good book by Shergart that tells all of the dates and serial numbers. So since he was a jeweler, I'm sure he had access to that book. So 1883 it is, and that's pretty early for this kind of a wind, actually. Most watches until about this time were key wind. Now, does it run? Okay, I'm not going to bother winding it. We're going to take it at your word. It's a really nice, the way that the case is done is very pretty. In the old days, you would buy the movement of the watch, and then you would pick the case you wanted for it. They weren't done by the same company. You go to a jeweler and you get each piece individually. Because of the gold content, the price on pocket watches generally has come down a lot recently, because now nostalgia is for what Dad and Grandpa wore, and they wore wrist watches. But because this is gold, there's a lot of interest in it as a piece of jewelry, and I think that your value is probably in the 800 to 1200 range, probably.
Yay.
So I'm glad you let us take a look at that. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That was fun. And yes, please come on up. You've been very patient.
My sister's shy.
Oh, that's fine.
She wanted me to bring.
She's welcome to sit and look from a distance. That's just fine. So this is very pretty. And does she, or can she tell us, or do you know anything about where it came from or how she got it?
It was my mother's.
Oh. Oh, how nice.
And that she did at a flea market.
Oh, really? She got this at a flea market. Wow. Well, this is why you should go to flea markets, because this is a wonderful 14 karat ring, 14 karat yellow gold. And the way it's set, I would say that it dates, this sort of a setting is going to be something we see 1930s, 40s, 50s, in that vicinity, because it's a little more clustered than Art Deco, so it's just kind of on the later edge of that. So it's not Edwardian or Deco, it's kind of Art Moderne era. It's got a lot of nice little diamonds. And it's prong set, which is really great. It looks like you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like 16 or 18 diamond chips, and then the center stone is your better quality one. It's got sort of an amber tone to the color. I am not a gemologist.
I believe what Mom used to say, they were brown.
Okay, they all do seem to have a little bit of a
Yes.
yellowish cast to them, and that must have been something that the original person who had this made liked, and so they asked for that, because they do all have that. And I actually find that very attractive. Some people who do jewelry, oh no, they want, oh, it's a diamond, it's got to be pure crystal clear, and
Mom liked it
I like
because it has the color.
And I have to say, I agree. I'm more of a colored stone fan than a diamond fan personally, and I agree with her. I think it gives it a nice champagne color overall, and I think it's honestly very attractive that way. And because of that, I wouldn't downgrade the value because of the stones. I actually think the setting and the stones together and the way it's done is really good. I'm not a gemologist. The best thing I can do is give you an approximate retail value based on others I've seen sell. And that value, I would say, would probably be maybe $650 retail and maybe $950 to $1,200 for insurance.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, very
Yeah,
good.
I was thinking somewhere between 6 and 8.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think you're right in there.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's so fun doing this with people who are knowledgeable because I actually get more feedback and can give a better appraisal. So that's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, my gosh, this was lots of fun. Does anyone else have anything else?
Do you see many Seth Thomas pocket watches?
I don't see much with Seth Thomas. They were mainly a clockmaker.
Yeah, I collect them, but
Yeah.
I saw a pocket watch. They wanted things like $400 or $500.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I had the money, I'd have bought it, but I wasn't sure if that was a good deal or a bad deal, and
I'm not sure if it's a good deal or a bad deal either. It's one of those questions of, is the fact that it's scarce more interesting to a collector who would pay more, or is the fact that it's scarce because, well, they didn't really make that and we really want the clocks? Yeah. And that's always something that takes a little research. Sometimes the outlier stuff, like with glass, everybody wants the outlier stuff. Everybody wants the thing that was made for one day and then they broke the mold.
Yeah.
With other stuff, sometimes it works that way and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know whether that was a great deal or just okay.
If you actually run across that kind of stuff.
I just don't see
that
particular brand. I just don't think they did a whole lot of watches. I think they were mostly a clockmaker.
So I get to regret not buying this even.
Well, again, maybe so, or maybe you shouldn't, and it's hard to say without knowing. It's a coin toss because is that a better thing or a not better thing, and that really depends on the collecting category.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I'm answering right now.
Well, this was really fun, and I am so glad I got to do this appraisal fair. And thank you all for watching, and thank you all for watching and talking to two people. And thanks very much. It's a great one. I'm so delighted to be here, and thank you all who got to watch live. This is the first time I've ever done one live, so that was really fun, and it made me think and not say so much. So that's also a good thing. And for the people who are seeing this after the fact on my video, thank you very much for joining. I'm George the Antique Mailer. Check me out on social media and links in the description. You'll see below, and I'll see you again for more fun from another place in the antique industry.
Yeah, it's not that much.
It's just,
We just shut this off.
information, a lot of information. She said she had a bunch.